Welcome everyone to a new episode of Red Leaf Retrocast Anime Edition. My name's Tori, and I'm joined here today with JD. How's it going?
Hooray! We're doing a good show about Rupon-sensei.
Rupon-sensei indeed. I'm also joined here today with Joe, or Senpai.
Hey.
A.
I have to
And
A for Hickey.
Sadly he has to do the A because there's no Hickey. He's busy studying and shame, couldn't be here.
Pour one
even
out
though
for the boys.
I know he wanted to. Yeah. So, but anyways, even if he's not here, that doesn't mean that you won't get the rest of us. You might be happy, you might be sad, who knows. So yeah, of course, shout out to our sponsor, David's Tea. Free shipping in North America still. Great.
Are you familiar with all of the sales that are going on right now?
Are you familiar with
familiar
Black
with
Friday?
all the sales. Inform me.
Oh my god, Black Friday's a thing, therefore sales are happening. And you get a mug with said sales.
But not when you're listening, obviously. This is only a week ago.
I think they're going on all month, up until Christmas, actually.
That sounds like a sweet deal.
It's just
If
going to
you're
be
in North
deals upon
America.
deals upon deals.
Sounds like a sweet deal if you're in North America. Alright. If I were in North America, I'd jump on that right away. And, you know, if I had money. If I didn't waste all my money.
And if you
on,
were an adult and liked coffee.
What did
Yeah.
you waste all your money on, Tori?
I wasted all my money. Well, not all my money, but I wasted
Because
money
Black
on,
Friday did happen.
Black Friday did happen, and JD decided to convince me that I should get Nier Automata and Horizon Zero Dawn.
Whoa.
So,
That was me.
Yeah.
Don't fuck that.
now, listen. You and Skeeth are the ones that convinced me that I should give the game a try. However, JD was the one who informed me that PlayStation was having a sale on it. So I wasn't going to get it, but then I couldn't stop myself, so I ended up buying it. And, yeah, basically, I basically played Nier all day today. So, it's a fun game. Good game. Horizon Zero Dawn will have to wait, because fuck that game. I'm playing Nier.
Horizon's better.
Nah.
You haven't played it yet.
Shut up. Yeah, no, you're right. So, anyways, I heard that there was a gunpla party going on yesterday.
Fuck yeah, there was. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw all the dumb poses. JD built some shit. I don't fucking... Ugh. Some bulbous Gundam.
It was a mobile suit, it wasn't a Gundam. You need to get your Gundam shit straight. We had the podcast episode over Gundam.
Whatever.
You should know these things. No, I got a Quebele, which was the mobile suit Haman Karn piloted in Zeta and Double Zeta Gundam. She became the heavy hitter through Neo Zeon and Axis. So it's just this wild looking alien like mobile suit that has features built upon what a wasp would have. So it's got funnels coming out of its behind, and yeah, it's pretty wild looking. It's just a lot of round parts. It took the longest out of all of them, ironically.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't even as intricate as Chris's, and he's just banging it together. It's those stupid fucking funnels that took you forever.
Oh, the funnels were the worst. So, Tori, I don't know if you've put together a model before of a Gundam.
No, I have not.
So, you have seen Gundam, so you know what funnels are.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happens is there were little individual funnel pieces, and into basically a shield-like part, you have to shove it underneath into something that goes in, but the pieces are so small and pointed that you can't really they don't just snap in easily. You have to jam them the fuck in.
Okay.
It took me 40 minutes just to get it going, and I even had help.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was bad time. But now it looks absolutely ridiculous on my shelf. It's huge.
Yeah. Nah, gunpla is something I've looked at, but I have no interest of getting into. I hate working with stuff like that. I just don't have the fucking motor skills or anything to do that shit.
Oh, you just need to
Let's put it this way.
You just need to have friends.
I couldn't get anything with small parts because I I can't even pick up small parts. My hands just loses it all the time. I don't like. One of the things I hate because I'm doing IT things and stuff like that, so I obviously have to work with computers and things like that.
Yeah, little baby
I hate
connectors.
having to fucking yeah, not even that. I hate having to take out the fucking tiny ass screws. I cannot hold them at all or put them back in. It's just
Like
it
set
doesn't
screws?
happen. Yeah,
Set screws are the best.
Speaking of screws, your gunpla had some screws there, Joe.
Yeah, it did. My fucking Gundam cheated, and it had actual set screws to hold the shoulder in place. It was interesting to see. I'd never seen screws in a Gundam kit before. But I got
that was so funny when I saw that.
I got a RX-78-4. It's one of the ones from the PS2 games. I thought it looked cool, so I picked it up, and it poses very well. It balances incredibly well.
Yeah, it's got legs and feet that can balance all of the weight in all different ways. If you go on Joe's Twitter there, Full Metal LAX, he's got it in just super funny poses where, you know, it's like doing one stand cartwheels almost next to mine, given the finger. No, you missed it. You missed a good party there, Tori. If only you didn't live in Bergen, Norway.
Yeah,
just fucking drop where he lives. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Give his street address next time.
You want to give them my address too?
Mother's maiden name.
Oh wait, you don't know that one.
I don't like small talk. I only like really good talk. Like, how do you feel about God? And what's the 16-digit number on your credit card? And the 3 numbers on the back? And the expiration date.
Good one. Yeah.
Do you want my Canadian numbers or my American?
I think your American's gonna be worth something.
Aww.
All them jokes. Speaking
so
of
you
jokes,
said you're afraid of small parts, Tori. Does that mean you're also afraid to eat them?
Yes.
Okay.
Good
talk.
Yeah, good talk. But speaking of jokes, and speaking of nice arms midget, so I heard that you guys went to New York for an anime con.
Yeah, we did. And JD has really nice arms for a midget. According to one
fucking New
Yorker.
Yorkers.
The best part of that entire story is I bumped into the same guy. He just fucking kept walking because I was like an inch taller than him. JD's about an inch shorter than him.
Yeah, so now we know the threshold in which a guy will turn around and go, I can kick his ass. 5'7". That's the height limit.
Yeah.
You go above 5'7", I don't want to mess with him.
No. Because
Yeah, so
I'm
Joe bumps
5'10".
into the guy by accident. I bump into the guy by accident. Then he turns around and goes, nice arms, midget. And I'm just like, what just happened?
No. You see, you can't drop the Canadian accent on him. You gotta, hey, nice arms, midget.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, man.
And I turned around.
I heard that pretty soon after they came back, and I was just...
Oh my god.
I couldn't help it. I had to message JD immediately and just go like, nice arms, midget.
Well, I didn't know what you guys were talking about, because I had just completely forgotten about it already, because shit happens to me all the time. People talk shit constantly. It was in and out of my memory pretty quick.
JD has a bully me face.
Yeah, JD, I understand that this really hit you hard and that you tried to repress it, but it's okay. You're among friends now.
I'm among friends that laugh.
Yeah, that's what friends do.
Oh, laughing really hit me where it hurts.
If you can't laugh with your friends, then they're not your friends.
Yeah.
Anyone will tell you that shit.
You know, yep.
Oh my god, you're right.
Other than
all of this time, all of the ridicule, it was because I was being loved.
Yep. Yeah.
Anyways, other than being told that you have nice arms for a midget, what else happened at Anime NYC?
We met a couple of We met a bunch of community members. Met Skeeth, Crash, IU, and if you want to become part of that community, you can get on our Discord group. It's right on the Mal group. You'll see the little link, Discord, whatever, and all the numbers and characters. Click on that. You're in. I'm not the only mod anymore, but yeah, crazy frontier
fellow gunpla
justice
model friend.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm the easiest mod to deal with ever. My entire rule set is don't be a dick.
Well, you definitely need to join the community quick, because Anime Boston's right around the corner.
It's true.
We're probably going to that as well. Because Boston is right around, Boston's up the road, essentially.
Yeah, it's an hour and a half drive, unless there's traffic, then it's a 2.5 hour drive.
It's not an hour and a half, it is an hour.
I don't know if you've ever seen Boston traffic with rotaries.
It's an hour to get to Boston, it's like 2 hours to get out of Boston. That's what I would say. But yeah, Anime New York City, it was the first anime con that they threw, and I thought it was one of the better cons I've ever been to, actually. It kicked the shit out of Anime North from earlier this year, that's for sure. That was in Toronto. Buddy Colin and I. Colin also came to New York City, which was cool of him. We had just a miserable time because they were throwing like this Republican convention at the same time in the building right next to it. So that was really funny. It made the news later because the Republicans I say Republicans loosely, they were convinced that they lost the election because of the anime fans throwing off like reporters and everything, and it was quite funny. But the con itself wasn't very good. So then coming to New York, I was just okay. The floor was a lot more organized, I felt, for merchandise. There was only 3 panel rooms, but that's really all there needed to be. And all the panels I went to were about what you expect, and there were some that were actually quite nice to go to. I went to a hip hop and anime panel, which highly focused on Samurai Champloo.
Of course.
Right?
I got to expose a Jotaro cosplayer.
We went to a Funimation industry panel, which turned into quite the funny incident where... so basically they were just picking people from the audience and asking them questions that they expected them to get right. Easy. At one point, someone asked, the Funimation person goes, "What is your favorite anime from the fall 2017 season?" It's like, easy questions. Cut to later, and Joe, you take it from here.
So there was a guy probably about 3-4 rows behind us, and he's cosplaying as Jotaro, one of the main characters, from part 3 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And he raises his hand, he gets the question, he stands up, and she proceeds to ask him, "What is the mangaka's name for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?" I think she said something to the tune of, "What is the author of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?" Which, close enough, fair, I get it. And he freezes. Hard freezes.
Oh, it was embarrassing. For him.
Yeah. Like I said, about 3 rows up, my hand goes right up in the air. "I got you, I got it."
Yeah, it just so happened the Funimation person that kind of confirms and relays the message was in our row, essentially. And I'm going, he knows. Joe raises his hand, stands up.
And so, a cosplayer in full Jotaro garb, like black jacket, hat, the whole 9. I stand up, I'm in like a sand tee and jeans. I look like I don't even belong there. And I just blurt out the answer. And I got a little bag, came with some Blu-rays that I wound up trading away to send me for things I actually wanted.
Yeah, you got a DVD compilation movie set of Naruto.
Yep.
Part 3 Blu-ray of Bleach.
And Part 3 Blu-ray of Hunter x Hunter. I'm a big shonen fan. No, I'm not. I'm really not.
What do you mean?
Feel like, wow, these are all things I want.
Yeah, JoJo's is seinen now, Tori.
Mm-hmm.
Now.
Yep, that's right. Oh yeah, all the brutal dog murder that was in part 1 and 2 and 3. Yeah, no, let's just totally ignore that. That's for kids.
Man, dude, like, what are you talking about? What?
It's Araki's favorite move. It's like, this guy's supposed to be evil. What do we make him do? Kill a dog. Oh yeah, that'll show him. They'll know that he's evil if he kills a dog. And so they roll with that every part. It's essentially a trope at this point.
Shonen used to have at least a little bit of balls.
Yeah. Well, speaking of shonen, Tori, how goes Yu Yu Hakusho?
No, we're not done with the con yet, man.
Oh, go for it.
Whoa, you gotta calm the fuck down, because that wasn't the only thing that you won at the con.
Oh, God. I won a lot of stuff at the con. I won at the vertical panel. I have a poster with my birthday on it.
Yeah, nice little raffle ticket you won there.
Yep.
It was.
Actually, I can't remember everything.
I think that was it that you won. You bought a bunch of stuff.
Eh.
I wound up at the Gundam panel that I originally wasn't going to go to because I met some other people, and the one singular ticket I got, I was the first number called actually because they only pulled three tickets, and I got the first volume of Gundam Thunderbolt, some nice little postcards, and a digital copy of a digital code to get the soundtrack for the second season. I use loosely.
Season.
So that was cool. Yeah.
Alright then.
So that was really cool. And then we went to the Funimation 18 plus
Peep Show, yes.
Peep Show.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we just blasted Twitter with just nonsense the whole time.
Oh god, yeah. It was all bullshit.
Unlike your normal tweets.
Which are also just bullshit. But this is directed garbage towards something, as opposed to just general garbage for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, JD's tweeting, and it's like, mine never gets on the board, and every fucking tweet I put up goes on the big, like, wall, the active feed of, like, tweets. It was just every fucking time.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I just missed most of them that I had put on, because it seemed like every single tweet was going on there.
It might have been. Or it might just be you were spelling something wrong or something. I don't know.
Probably.
Or you just so happened to tweet when there was like a mob of people. So you got on the board.
That's
and
possible.
By the time I refresh, you were halfway down.
Yeah. So I was pretty stubborn with getting the prize because they go, well, if you get retweeted, you win a prize, but we both got likes instead. Multiple, right?
Yep.
So I just went up with one of them, and I was stubborn because all it takes is one person not to claim their prize, and then that shit's mine.
And that's what they got.
So it came down, and in fact, 2 people didn't claim, so one person got one, and then she just hands me the bag with a poster of Space Dandy and a bunch of like nude, naughty postcards of anime chicks inside.
Yeah.
A lot of Is Sister New Devil type stuff.
Show's pretty okie doke.
So I think I need to watch that now. I have a lot of that show.
Yeah, I have
It's okay.
I have pins all over my backpack. If you were
God.
following me on Twitter, you'd see that I just completely covered my lanyard in buttons. I didn't pay for a single one of them either.
It was your mission to fill it with buttons.
Yeah, it's every time I go to a con, that's always what I do.
Really?
See how many lanyards I can get or how many buttons I can get on them for free. Yeah.
Nice.
It's a fun game because by the time you're done, you just walk over to your friends like, see, I didn't pay a dime for this, and you just drop this 10-pound fucking lanyard on the table.
Oh, with those Black Clover buttons this time around?
Oh,
Holy
God.
shit.
Those things were awful. First off, they're pushing that show way, way too hard. Disgustingly hard. It's not good.
Agreed.
Everyone that was around us at all was just, as soon as they talked about Black Clover, I, JD, Skeeth, everyone, first thing we did, the whole fucking time. And they're still like,
don't leave your text-to-voice chat on.
and they're still like, oh yeah, no, Black Clover's it's probably gonna be the new king of shonen. And everyone's just,
nope.
But My Hero Academia exists. What do you mean? They were...
Well, you see that they're gonna have 51 episodes, so there's gonna be, in spring 2018, as they announced, that's when the next My Hero Academia is showing, that both those shows are gonna be on at the same time.
Oh, it's gonna be a fucking blowout.
Oh, it's not even gonna be close.
Tori, where did season 2 of My Hero end? Was it where I said?
Yeah, basically the
mall.
After the shopping mall scene with fucking, I forgot his name already.
Crazy Hands dude.
Crazy Hands dude, yeah. And where basically he's confronted
Memory of an Elephant
Midoriya.
here.
Yeah, he's confronted Midoriya and kind of just, in public and.
Okay, you guys are going into a really good training arc. Yeah, no, that's gonna blow Black Clover out of the fucking water.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah.
That's gonna blow it out.
I'm not surprised. Like, My Hero Academia
Plus it's bones.
Yeah, My Hero Academia is fantastic. Like, I liked the first season. I thought the second season just blew everything from the first season out the water. I thought that was a much better season. And this is coming from me. I'm not a shonen guy. I don't like shonen. But My Hero Academia somehow managed to just get me super hyped up about everything that happens.
Well, My Hero is only technically shonen. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's essentially a comic book series, but just done the right way, unlike American comics have been doing recently.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
It takes a lot of influence from Western comics and stuff like that, and superhero comics. And yes, I agree, because it utilizes both, in terms of its visuals and character designs and whatnot. It takes a lot from comics. Obviously, it is, but it is superhero comics mixed with a lot of shonen tropes. So it's both, but it balances it well, and it manages to take, in my opinion, some of the best parts of both superhero comics and shonen battle anime without sprinkling in too much of the things that make them bad.
Well, for instance, I like to compare My Hero to the Silver Age of comics in the American sense. Not that because
So the 70s?
Yeah.
That was the silver, right?
Because Golden Age was kind of, more like, oh, superheroes are super, they can't do anything wrong. But the Silver Age seems to be where they were the most creative with it. Where the storylines were like, okay, this character's gonna die, and this character's gonna have to deal with that. And it was kind of going towards that.
Yeah.
My Hero's creative, and it's something that American comics now have kind of strayed away from in general. With
sure,
because I can't even read DC comics. I can't read Marvel. They're just not the same. They're steeped in.
No, I read a lot of Image myself.
I do. I like Nailbiter. I know you read Lazarus.
Yes.
I'm trying to get into Saga, but I keep looking at the price tag every time I go to buy it. Like, oh, $50 for one book. No, we're gonna put that back, and I'm gonna walk away.
Well, speaking of books, I got a very special book, quote unquote, at the con.
You got a very special doujinshi, yes.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I finally bought. Tori, are you ready for this?
Okay.
Are you sitting down? I can see you sitting down.
I am sitting down.
They're clearly 18.
There.
Joe, they're 18. They would not print it or sell it otherwise.
They're clearly 15. Yep. Canonically, yes.
No, they're definitely 18. Tori's ready. All right. So, I go to this table.
I'm calling the police.
I go to this table, and I'm flipping through. I go, oh, I see One Piece doujinshi. Put the phone down, Tori! I see One Piece doujinshi. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see some superpower porn, right? That's gotta be hilarious. It turns out the whole table was filled with nothing but Zoro and Sanji from One Piece banging each other. So I'm flipping through it, like, what is this all I'm gonna get here?
So I'm
very disappointed.
I'll cut in for this. I was talking to Skeeth about this exact moment later, and he said he's standing right next to the Yuri porn, just sitting there, and he's waiting for you to flip through, and you're just flipping through hard yaoi for a good 10 minutes until you look up at the guy and go, you have anything that's not gay?
And
the guy looks
yeah,
and goes,
over here on the other side.
Right there, actually. And Skeeth's in arm's reach away. Just, did you know about that? No, never, no. No way, no.
Well, I thought the whole doujinshi table was just gay porn.
That'd be a shitty doujinshi
You
table.
need to look around, JD. God, use your eyes.
So I go around, and everything's been picked clean except, dare I say, one item.
No,
and it was from Monogatari.
I double dare you to say one item.
Well, a lot of it, all the Konosuba was just gone. Characters you would never recognize.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. Skeeth pulled out a whole stack of Monster Girls, and don't worry, he was looking for you, Joe. He was looking for a friend.
I know.
He swears by it.
The best part was, later on, I went to that table to confirm with that guy that he was, in fact, looking for a friend, because that friend was me. It's like, oh yeah, sure, that's what they all say. I walk up probably, I don't know, an hour later, like, hey, did someone come up to the table looking for Monster Girl porn? Yeah, why? Did they say they were looking for a friend? Yeah. I'm that friend. Hi. How you doing?
Yeah. Not necessary, but you did it.
Yeah, well, I like to make everyone laugh.
So, I pulled out Monogatari Fire Sisters and just went, here's my money. All right, we're going to enjoy this later.
Enjoy this later.
Yeah, well,
Enjoy.
I read
Enjoy
it.
the 15-year-olds.
Uh-huh.
I read it in front of all you guys at the hotel, so I did enjoy it and share it with friends.
Did you have fun together?
We all did.
Yeah, we crossed up.
Oh.
Aranagi, you can live forever if you know what I mean.
Well,
You ever stirred mac and cheese?
I don't know what that means.
Okay, good. Keep it
you
that
don't
way.
need to worry about it.
Okay.
So, anything else from NYC, or do we move on?
There's a really good ramen place.
There is.
I don't
Well,
care.
it's called Gotham, so I mean, it's a bunch of really good places. We didn't have a bad thing there. We ate there all weekend.
Yeah,
That's
well,
pretty
we ate there
impressive.
twice.
Oh no, I went there every day. We just went to a different place in there.
I went there twice, in which we went to the deli place the last day.
Yep.
They got my order wrong. And gave me then a second sandwich. I'm like, Jesus, these things are huge already.
I ate a sandwich and a half, no problem. Just go for it. And beer's expensive.
Oh God.
Too many
Everything's
goddamn
$20.
people in New York. Way too many people.
It's an expensive city, Tori, as you might expect.
Yeah, I'm not even shocked.
It's like going to Oslo every day, and you don't live there.
Yeah, I do not, and it's pretty expensive here as well. But
I live in a tourist trap and I'm
let's not
cheaper.
get into that.
Let's not get into Oslo, Norway.
Yeah, nobody cares about that stuff. Nobody cares about where I live. I live in a deserted island somewhere in the north.
I mean, at least your people are happy.
True. All 7 of us.
All 7 of you. Keep it in the family, right? Right.
There's a couple reindeer, right?
Oh, there's quite a few reindeer. But we don't count them for happiness. But yeah, anyways, to answer what Joe tried to ask me earlier, yes, I am watching Yu Yu Hakusho.
Going to that shonen update.
And yeah, basically this has become my shonen update. I don't have much to say. The quest has caught up to me, or the podcast have caught up to the quest, I guess. I'm currently watching through Yu Yu Hakusho, and I'm now starting the Dark Tournament arc.
Is it better than Hunter x Hunter?
Is it better than Hunter x Hunter?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I would also agree.
It is. It does a lot of things.
I
In my
await the
opinion,
hate mail.
Yeah, no. I mean, watching Yu Yu Hakusho, it's obviously, of course it's written by the same person, but it's kind of funny, seeing basically the exact same things again. But what I appreciate a lot is, like, a lot of the things that, in my opinion, I felt they spent too much time with in Hunter x Hunter is cut down in Yu Yu Hakusho. But obviously, there's so many similarities between Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter that, if they didn't look different and have different names, you could have thought they were the same show.
I think the main cast is much different, though.
And like I told Joe, basically, the main cast of Yu Yu Hakusho compared to Hunter x Hunter is so clearly, you can tell it on them what, like, the author's state of mind was when writing Yu Yu Hakusho, because he was under a lot of pressure, and he wasn't very, like, he had a lot of mental health issues and stuff like that going on, and it is a lot of frustration, especially, and it is very clear in the characters of Yu Yu Hakusho. Something that is not so much present in Hunter x Hunter, where everybody's like, gone. A lot more happy-go-lucky guy. I'm looking for my dad. Yay! But whereas in Yu Yu Hakusho, there's a lot more frustration going on with the characters. They seem a lot more human because, like, I don't know, considering the situation they're in, you can kind of tell that they're becoming very frustrated with their situation. They don't like being a part of, like, Yusuke don't like being a part of the Spirit Detectives. Like, it's not where he wants to be. Yeah, so, but basically that's where I am right now. So, it's gonna take me a while to watch Yu Yu Hakusho, so I probably won't have any more updates for a while. And it's going to take me even longer because I'm going to be playing Nier. So
that's a good ass game.
Yeah, I think I might be hitting up
game. See what I did
Nier
there?
pretty soon as well. I did get Batman Telltale for the Nintendo Switch in New York as well. So I'm definitely going to be playing through that first. I did get Persona 5 on Black Friday.
Paint the devil on the wall. Too.
So sticking with anime, I got that, and then I also got Danganronpa.
Ugh.
Dragon
well,
Grandpa.
You don't like
Dungeon
it, but
Grandpa.
many people do. It's a couple anime games definitely to go through. I really need to play Nier soon.
I got Melty Blood.
It's a lot of fun.
The Type Moon Fighter. Speaking of Type Moon, though, what did we go see?
Oh, right. That was our big thing on Saturday in New York. We saw the, I guess, premiere, technically, of Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel, the movie.
Because soccer is the
Are you
best.
jealous, Tori?
Fight me, boy.
I am very jealous. But at the same time, I'm not jealous because I'm not going to watch the movies until they're all out.
Oh, well. Too bad for you. No, it was, the vibe I got clearly, especially during one particular scene in the movie, which was very jarring to me, because I hadn't played the game. I was clearly the only one who hasn't played the game in that theater.
Yeah.
Because one of our buddies was next to us, and I just kind of nudged him, like, what the fuck is going on here? And he goes, you gotta play the game. It's like, what? It was right in the middle of the movie. It made no sense to me. It didn't ruin it by any means. It was just so random and out of nowhere.
Well, JD's sitting there like, what the fuck's going on? And everyone around him is laughing. Because it was in
another CG dragon moment?
No.
Sadly,
there was no sex scenes, which is odd because Heaven's Feel sex scenes are actually important. So,
well, you know, anime.
The director came out and said, we might not get the rating we want for this one, but we're gonna have to for the rest. So, we might be getting some R-rated anime from UFO Table.
I like it.
UFO Table. UFO Table. UFO Table.
Ufotable.
No, Heaven's Feel is definitely a very good movie. It's probably the best outside of Fate Zero currently, until all three come out to make a full series. I would say Heaven's Feel is definitely the best iteration
of Stay Night,
other than Fate Zero.
I've played the game, and I went in expecting to not like this movie because they were going to change things and make things different. But I was pleasantly surprised when I found out that no, they actually kept it fairly similar. It's a little slow, but I mean, it's a lot faster than the game because the game's a fucking 80-hour visual novel.
At least.
Yeah, but so the first movie was a little on the slow side, but they ripped through a lot of content because anything that was kind of unnecessary to the story, they kind of just blew right past. So that was
they didn't do the whole introduction of what's the Grail War, Shiro's little backstory, and how he became a part of the war. It definitely goes into it, assuming you've seen at least Unlimited Blade Works.
Well, it's nice because with the games, you're supposed to play that route last, so they don't explain shit to you. Because it's like, okay, so you've played 60 hours of this game already. I'm not telling you what the Grail War is again. I'm not explaining who this is. You know who everyone is. This is the Grail War. Off we go. And they actually put that into the movie, which is good. Because now you have a proper order to watch things in. It's not gonna be like, oh yeah, well I watched Zero, then I watched Heaven's Feel, then I watched Unlimited Blade. No. You watch Zero, well, this'll be a debate. You watch Unlimited Blade Works, you watch Zero, you watch Heaven's Feel. There you go.
I would agree with that.
There's a huge long debate on whether you should watch UBW or Zero first, because they spoil each other and blah blah blah. But Zero's the better story, so UBW, Zero. Because Zero's just a prequel anyway. Heaven's Feel. Because
I started with Zero before watching anything else, and again UBW. Well, apart from
it came out
apart
first.
from the Dean version, it wasn't
it came out first. But now you have the option to watch one over the other.
I mean, I did watch Fate Stay Night, the Dean version, and
me too.
I'm ashamed to admit that I actually like it, but I do.
It's not bad. It's
like
just
it
a
as well.
convoluted nothing.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm aware.
Just
I still like it.
it's just nothing. It's just
I know, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh god, this is what everybody says is so bad. And I can totally see why people say this is bad, but I like it.
it's Fate fan fiction.
Yeah.
Now bring on Fate Extra, because I want to see what Shaft does personally.
I still need to watch Grand Order as well.
It's not bad. I expected it to
Yeah,
be
no,
terrible because it's a phone game, but yeah, it's not that bad.
I need to check it out.
So we got some questions that came in. Couple.
Yeah, we
Are we
do.
going to answer them now, or are we going to wait?
Let's just answer them now, I say.
Okay. All right, let's answer them now then.
Let's see. Let's start with the first one. When do you guys think the last really good anime season was? If possible, what year and shows you like were in it? Wow. I'll let you guys start because I don't fucking know.
I believe it's spring 2009 when Bakemonogatari came out. I don't know what else was in that season, but I do know 2009 was a very strong year for anime in general.
2009 was an extremely strong year, and as I've mentioned before, usually get the best seasons at the end of decades. So I would say in 2018, 2019, that's when we're going to see the next great anime season.
Yeah, Devilman Crybaby. We went over this.
To answer your question, what came out in spring 2009? 07 Ghost, a Detective Conan movie, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Eden of the East, Phantom Requiem for a Phantom are kind of the major notes. I believe you were thinking of fall 2009.
It's very possible.
Which Blue Literature came out, Darker Than Black, Fairy Tail, The End of Inuyasha, Summer Wars, but Bakemonogatari came out in the summer. So I think just 2009 as a whole was the last good anime season.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna just go ahead and throw in the boring answer and the one that
Last season.
contradicts what you said. The last real good season, because I don't have a proper answer for this. I have not been into seasonal anime for that long either. So the only thing I can really respond with is the last really good anime season, for as far as I know, would be 2014, which was when financially anime did better than it's ever done, and has never reached the heights of 2014 again.
So are you saying like fall 2014?
No, the entire year of 2014.
The entire
I don't
14.
remember exactly what season. I just remember there was a lot of debate because like how much money anime made in 2014 was vastly higher than it had ever been before. And I think the last time it was either early 2000 or late 90s was the last time it had even gotten close to making as much money.
So you're going the financial aspect. Well,
yes,
Joe
because
and I
that's the only answer I can give you.
Okay, well, no, that's a fair answer. I'm not
Yeah.
disputing it. That's a very good argument to make.
I'm definitely going with summer 2009, specifically.
Fair enough.
Bakemonogatari,
Specifically.
Spice and Wolf 2, Sayonara, Zetsubo Sensei.
Yeah.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood was releasing. Haruhi was
yeah,
releasing.
a lot of things were carrying over. One Piece was still out, so obviously it was great.
Shut up. One Piece is still ongoing. What's your point?
Well, then everything's the greatest anime season ever.
True.
Hellsing
enough.
Ultimate was
Can't
still
argue with that logic.
was still going. To Love Ru was still going. No, definitely summer 2009.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
basically, yeah. So 2009, definitely.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with an answer like that.
No, you can't. So, and I don't think I mentioned who asked that question. That question was from Crash. He's also got another question.
In reference,
and that is...
IU does. In reference to Crash's earlier
No.
question.
No. You're skipping ahead. The
Am
next
I?
question is, suggestions for older anime to watch. I've been gravitating to older shows as of late, and would like suggestions from all four of you since you guys know your stuff about it. Thanks! Thank you for your question, Crash. Again, you guys?
Okay,
Go
Crash,
ahead.
I got you again. We got a Mazinger Z, if you like super robots. We have Gao Gaigar, the Devilman OVAs. Basically any OVA series, really. At least give them a try. They're short, usually. Don't watch Bubblegum Crisis. Let's see.
So wrong.
This was a suggestion for what to watch, not what not to watch.
Look, any bit counts.
I, in fact, just on the Right Stuff Black Friday sale, just bought Bubblegum Crisis and Crash. Because I liked it so much.
No words. No words.
No words either.
Alright, well,
I mean,
yeah.
I would, for Crash, I know, Crash, you started watching, not yet, The Secret of Blue Water, which I applaud you for. That's a good show. Glad you listened to me. Other than that, other kind of shows that I've told you before, like, for example, We'll Talk on a Video, real good one, short 2-episode OVA, absolutely loved it. You've heard me rave about this before, obviously, is Akage no Ann, or Anne of Green Gables, fantastic show from the 70s, 50-episode show from Nippon Animation. I absolutely adore it, and I know you like Slice of Life too, so I'm sure you would really appreciate that show.
We have Getter Robo, 3-9, Crusher Joe, Barefoot Gen, Captain Tsubasa. Anything that has Gundam attached to it, as long as it's UC. Meisani Kaku, that's a good one. I mean, it's not really.
That's
not really
very
old.
high on my list.
Project A-ko.
Meisani Kaku's from the 80s, man.
Yeah, well, Crash was born in the 90s. What do you want me to say? Want me to go back to the 60s? Watch Astro Boy. Go ahead. Crash, watch Astro Boy. It's in black and white. You'll love it. It's the first anime that was actually anime. I don't know what to fucking tell you. Anime is only like 50, 60 years old.
From the 70s, I always gravitate towards recommending Future Boy Conan and Space Battleship Yamato.
Yeah.
There's 3 seasons of Yamato, and they're all pretty solid. The first one especially is the best.
Anything in that Matsu-verse?
Basically anything Leiji Matsumoto. If you like anything more of the space opera type or space adventure, that is definitely for you. In the 80s, I always gravitate towards Maizuni Kaku, Gunbuster, which we've discussed. So Fist of North Star is always classic. What are you talking about?
Joe.
Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Do it.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, watch that. Yeah.
That's the anime killer, as everybody knows.
You want to hate anime? Here we go. Let me just hand this to you.
You'll never like anime ever again.
Well, the thing about Legend of the Galactic Heroes, it's a story on such an epic scale, and then nothing can compare after that. That's where that comes from.
Legend of the Space Jam. That's right. Kuroko no Space.
Kuroko no Space.
From the 90s, definitely something like Lost Star and Great Teacher Onizuka. For women, I always gravitate towards recommending Escaflowne.
Yes, Escaflowne.
But I like Escaflowne, so it's very good. So.
Nothing could beat a good show.
Watch Razafon if you like Ava. That Studio Bones making Ava make sense. It's not old, though. But
that's from the early 2000s, isn't it?
So then we have a continuation based on that question?
It's just make obscure suggestions from IU. Yeah. That's why I went off on that Getter Robo shit.
Yeah, okay.
So the more obscure from the 70s, I like recommending 3000 Leagues in Search of Mother. It's
Attack number
1976. It's from 1976. You can find a sub. It has an all-star staff. Takahata and Miyazaki are involved. Mukuo, so a lot of Ghibli staff. It's very well done. It seems like it has a little bit of filler in it, but that's only because of the time it came out in. But it does have very memorable moments, and the story is very solid. That would be my obscure recommendation from the 70s.
I mean, I'm trying to think of something obscure as well. Fucking Primitive Boy Ryu. You should watch that now. It's not very good. But, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's not really obscure that you just said everything from the Monsterverse, but like, Queen Millennia is definitely a good one. It's the show that succeeded Galaxy 3.9 and was
watch Emeraldus.
Never appreciated it. Yeah, never appreciated as much as Galaxy Express 3.9. But I watched Queen Millennia for the Quest, and I thought it was still really good.
Well, I got a question for you guys. Who's the protagonist of the Mazuverse?
The protagonist?
Of the Matsuverse.
Captain Orlok.
I would say it's Maytel.
I'm with Tori. It is...
Captain Orlok.
Harlock.
Mm-hmm. I understand why. Because
Are
Maytel
those
is
interconnected,
around
though, technically? That's where then that argument comes in. But for the sake of, yes, they are, I would say, yeah, Harlock's a good choice. Can't really argue
He's in all the important things. Being a badass.
Well, Maytel is kind of the guide for all of each show's protagonists, you might say. That's where I get that argument, and she's in every like major event at some point in time.
She is the most important side character.
She is Rey from Evangelion. Got it. She is the story.
Yeah.
Harlock is the main character.
You can argue that, yeah.
To continue, and I think Senpai, you'd be totally down with this recommendation of obscure shows from the 80s. It's definitely Votomes.
Yeah. If you like real
if you do
robots.
any research, yeah, it's... No, I don't know really anybody who's really watched Votomes at this point in time. I mean, it's an early 80s show. It's mech. It's superhero-like characters, it seems, at times. It's a good show, honestly.
But what about Crying Freeman?
That is a show I don't recommend.
No, but in reality...
Unless you want to see people get stabbed in the face with a knife in their toe.
While that guy's crying.
Yeah, I do want to watch
And then he cries.
Yeah. Watch Angel's Egg.
That sounds really good.
Angel's Egg.
Angel's Egg.
Yes.
Angel's Egg. You're gonna come out of it asking yourself what?
The fuck was that, guys?
Pretty much.
And then you're gonna go and look up. It's like, so what did Mamoru Oshii say about this movie that he made? And you'll basically find the quote where he says, "I have no idea what this even is."
What did he mean by this?
No, but it's so hilarious because that was the first thing I did when I watched that. I was like, so what was like Oshii's quotes from this? Like, what did he talk? He's done interviews based on this. So what did he talk about? It's basically two things he said. One, this movie basically ruined my career, and two, I have no idea what it is. He didn't get hired for anything after Angel's Egg for quite a few years.
It's true.
Wow. From the 90s, Iria Zyram the animation. Short little OVA, badass woman, bounty hunter type character fighting this unstoppable alien. It's really good.
Every 90s anime that Gainax even touched. Just go ahead and watch those. All of them.
What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object?
Well, you get Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant.
The unstoppable force wins. That's right.
We divide by zero.
That's what Galaxy Express 39 told me. The unstoppable force always wins.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan wins. We know.
Pat Labor, if you want to watch something from the 90s, I guess.
Pat Labor's a good one. It's not really that obscure at the moment, though.
Grappler Baki.
So I hope everyone had their pen and paper ready for that, because that was quite the list.
Grappler Baki is a good one. We can keep going. I mean, shit.
We can't keep going. Or JD, you can put it all in the show notes.
Or no.
That'd be fun.
Get that pen and paper. I'll get that rewind button going.
I'll just copy and paste my Excel file that I have. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do.
That works.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Oh.
You should also watch Lupin the Third.
Lupin the Third?
No, thanks.
Lupin Sansei.
Lupin Sansei. He's the best. Coming later in time.
So yeah, that was it for the questions that we have. If you want your questions answered on the podcast, then be sure to send them in. You know where to put it in the Discord. And if you're not part of the Discord, what are you doing? Join the Discord.
Get in the Discord. We're only kind of mean.
Bother us on Twitter.
Yeah.
Bother us on Twitter if you feel like it.
Go to my Twitter. Yeah, go to my pinned tweet. Click on it. You're in. There you go.
Yeah, your Twitter is
Full Metal _ LAX. Correct.
And JD, your Twitter is
Bowling JD.
Yeah. All right. My Twitter, nobody cares about.
X Trap Rocks.
Oh,
yes.
That's a shame.
I'm glad you can say it because I never even remember it. I'm just always logged in. Well, you know what? since we're done the questions, why don't we move on to, is there anything to note from fall 2017 anime season? Anything that stands out among the rubble of trash that exists in the seasonal anime?
Yeah, if you think any show is good, read the goddamn manga.
Shut up.
Very simple. I'm a very simple man.
JD, I thought you wanted to talk about something here. Why are you being quiet?
So, there's been this little experiment I've been doing this season. So I'm watching a total of 20 shows. And it does include a few shows that are continuing from the summer. So what I've done is each week / each show's episode 1 through 12. Episode 1 happens of all those 20 shows, and I rank each show based on my enjoyment. 1 being the best to 20 being the worst. And each show then gets an average rank over the course of the season. And then then I have, of course, then a top 10 of what I enjoyed actually, truthfully, throughout the season. And then there's a graph seeing what's consistently good, what's all over the place. For example, Ancient Magus Bride hasn't fallen out of even the top 3 once throughout the whole season. Very good show. Every episode's solid. Then you got a show like Welcome to the Ballroom, where one week it's in the top 5, and the next week it's in like the bottom 5. So it's all over the place, yet it has an average rank of about 9. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting to see what I'm actually enjoying more. So when I halfway through the season saw what the top 10 was and seeing something like Welcome to the Ballroom actually cracking the top 10, I was like, what? I don't think I was enjoying that show that much. That also shows then, like, a solid show, like Hoseki no Reitetsu Season 2, as solid as it is, isn't cracking the high marks each and every week. And that probably has to do with it being an episodic show. Kino's Journey's kind of going through that as well. You know, one episode's really good, another episode's maybe not so good, so it has a much lower rank. Is this getting through to you guys?
Yeah, I understand averages. Don't worry.
Well, a lot of people have trouble with averages and statistics and things, as I discovered in school.
That was in school. Nobody learns in school.
Yeah, well. So I think I'm definitely going to continue doing this each season, at least for a little while, at least going into next season, and trying to pick, at least 6 to 10 shows a season, just to kind of dabble in, and it'll be interesting to see what I enjoyed the most, because I honestly thought going into the season something like March Comes in Like a Lion was just going to blow everything away.
Mm-hmm. No.
Ancient Magus Bride's proven that wrong.
Ancient Magus Bride for me is
that's right, bitch,
standout show this season. Like, I really enjoyed Maiden Abyss last season, and when I watched it, I said to myself, it's going to be quite a while until anything comes out that can top this. And then literally the next season we get Ancient Magus Bride, and I'm sitting there, I was like, you know what? This can actually top Maiden Abyss.
That's right.
The end of the year discussion on best anime of the year is going to be very interesting.
It's Ancient Magus Bride.
Sure.
There you go. I saved a bunch of time.
It's paving its way right there.
Yeah,
it is incredibly strong.
Like, yeah. Even if we'll only have the first half of the show to go on, it's still
it's gonna have some fight for me with like My Hero Academia, obviously, but
yeah,
it is.
My biggest problem with Magus Bride is how hard it is to pitch. Like, okay, so here's the deal. It's a giant goat man, right? And he buys this 15-year-old girl who sold herself into slavery, right? And he plans on making her his apprentice and then marrying her. And this is their story. All about how her life got turned upside down. I'd like to take a minute, sit right there. I'm sorry.
It's a very original idea.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Do you like Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Good. You like Magus Bride. Do you like depression? Good. You like Magus Bride.
Now,
do you like
one show
series?
in particular, and I wish Hickey was here on the podcast to go over this with me as well, but there's the Land of the Illustrious, Hoseki no Kuni.
I love that show.
Now, I have a geological engineering degree, and from a geologist perspective, this show is possibly the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. So I had a conversation with Hickey, and I was saying, look, I don't hate the show as much as I thought I would, but it is definitely frustrating because there's moments where they're talking chemical compositions and breaking and how, okay, take the last episode. It's winter time, so temperatures drop. So they're saying now that these genderless mineral creatures have to go into hibernation because they don't get enough sunlight for energy. And here I am going, but they're minerals, they don't need energy.
Energy.
Right? So...
It depends on how they're made, though. But I'm not going to get into that.
So, well, the point is, I go, it would make so much more sense if instead of minerals, they made them into plants.
Well, aren't they essentially plants dealing through photosynthesis to get energy?
Kinda.
But they're not plants, they're minerals.
They're based on minerals.
If they made them plants, then all of these things that they've been doing throughout the show would make so much more sense. It wouldn't be this geologic disaster that it would be.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know if you know this, but everyone doesn't have a engineering degree.
No, I know. Most 99% of people are just going to be watching the show, being like, "Okay, yeah, cool,
sure,
rocks hard,
fuck it, whatever."
Got
All
it.
right, rocks are rocks.
That's basically.
I'm like, no, they're not rocks. They're minerals. They're not gems. They're minerals. They're different.
That's basically where I am, right? Because I really enjoy this show. Obviously, I'm not a geologist. I don't know most of these things. And I think the show is still doing a pretty good show at staying interesting. Because I don't have to worry about the things like, oh, no, that is wrong. That is incorrect. That's not how that works.
Well, my issue is whenever they have an explanation for a plot that's happening in an episode. Take the last one with the Antarctic site. Mm-hmm. Okay? Temperature drops. Okay, gets into solid form. I'm like, cool. However, they discuss that if the mineral changes its form or breaks off in certain ways, or you have to chip, they've explained this in the show, they lose their memories. Well, geologically, if a mineral loses its solid form, it's no longer then a mineral. It's a completely different substance. So Antarctic site isn't Antarctic site until it reaches solid form. So when it resorts back to its liquid form, it's no longer the same thing. Yet they have this mineral creature retaining all of its memories, retaining all of its abilities. It's very convoluted and wrong geologically. So I can't watch the show and accept the plot that they're putting in front of me because it's so wrong.
Get the stick out of your ass, man.
No comment.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Like I said, I know there's a lot of stuff there that I don't get, and that's fair. But I still really enjoy it. I think like just story-wise, and because I don't have a geological background, I'm more forced into the position of I just have to accept what the author wants to do with the story, and as such, I'm also enjoying it a lot more.
It's very original. Never seen anything like it. I'm happy that there's a show focused on some sort of geology, and they're trying to do things with it. I wish they did more things such as Cinnabar with the mercury ability. You know, more things like that instead of just here's 4 kinds of diamonds. Like, to me, that's you're at that point you're not doing anything original. Then you're just like, oh, I ran out of minerals. There's so many minerals. You picked phosphophyllite as your main character. You know how random that is as a mineral to pick. Yet you have 4 kinds of diamonds and an industrial grade diamond on top of that. No. Yeah, that's just geology rant. That's what I wanted to touch on.
It makes sense though. Diamonds are the strongest.
There's no topaz in the show. That's number 9 on the hardness scale. You could at least just have each one. You could have had graphite be the weakest thing.
JD, calm down.
No.
They don't have Topaz yet.
Okay.
They're not done. The story is still ongoing.
Does Amethyst
Don't worry
exist
about
in this
it.
series?
The what now?
Does Amethyst exist in the series?
Yes.
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 And they give Amethyst the twinning ability, but so what twinning is in minerals is when two minerals form and they cross each other, right?
Yep.
So I actually have in my mineral display behind me an example of a rock's twinning. So they literally took this. They took this literally, and have Amethyst split into twins.
Yeah.
But Amethyst isn't really known for a twinning ability in geology. So I don't know why they chose Amethyst to be that mineral when there are much more prevalent ones that do it a lot more often. It is a rare occurrence, but Amethyst is a very common mineral.
Yes, it is.
So I didn't really see the connection there, but I did see why they gave it the ability.
Mm-hmm.
I did put it together. I don't know if you caught that, Tori.
I didn't know about that, no.
Yeah. So a good little lesson there.
Yep.
But Amethyst is just another type of quartz.
Yep.
They have quartz already, so they're just stacking
Quartz part 2,
minerals.
Electric Boogaloo.
Well, yeah, they're just like, here's quartz 2, here's quartz 3, here's diamond 1, here's diamond 2, here's diamond 3, here's industrial grade diamond. What the fuck?
Here's synthetic diamond.
Like, oh, why don't you just have? Oh God, I'll stop.
Doesn't matter, JD.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating.
Oh, calm down. It's a good show.
It's okay.
It's a good show. It's a good show, and quite frankly, it is one of the better CG shows I've seen in a while. Better looking CG shows I've seen in a while.
That's true.
They utilize what I appreciate as well is that something I'm a follower of Sakuga blog and Sakuga Board and stuff like that, and the people behind that, especially on Twitter and whatnot. And what Kevin, one of the writers for Sakuga, or one of the founders of Sakuga Board, informed me of a lot, is that apparently the way they make the CG in this one is they use a lot of 2D and hand drawn models for reference. So it's basically drawn in 2D and then they do CG based on the 2D models. And even in the CG, surprisingly, there's quite a lot of 2D in there, which has just flown me by. But he showed me a couple of examples.
It's like the opposite of rotoscoping.
Yeah, right. It's like you basically just have moments where the CG turns 2D, and I don't know. It's interesting. It's a cool look. They've got a lot of like new talent working on that show with some interesting ideas, and yeah, you can clearly see that. So, I mean, if this is an example of where they can take CG in the future, then yeah, sure, I'm all down. I can go for shows that look like this. It's not that I like it to be better, of course, but again, it's pretty decent.
Nah, just 2D, please.
Than a lot of other things. You're gonna get more CG. Just accept it already.
Nah, 2D. No. Unless it's from Polygon, it better fucking be 2D. Or I'm out.
This isn't from Polygon, but Polygon would be proud. Yeah. Well then, anything else to note from fall 20? Well, I have one actually.
Rigatsu no Lion still releasing.
It is still releasing, yeah. But I want to talk about Girls Last Tour, which is kind of a surprise for me. I didn't know what to expect. I was expecting basically, I was expecting basically a show that looked at Made in Abyss and was like, okay, I want to do that, and I wanted to basically cash in on my Made in Abyss is like aesthetic, the way it looks, and hope that people would be interested in it based on that. But it's actually a pretty solid show in my opinion. It's an interesting take on. Basically, it's a slice of life in a lot of sense. You could even call it an Iyashiki because nothing really happens. But what you essentially get is
Did you just say Inuyashiki?
Did I?
Yeah.
I didn't mean that.
Iyashiki.
Yeah, Iyashiki.
Inuyashiki's releasing this season.
Inuyashiki is releasing this season. I meant Iyashiki. Anyways.
I was confused for a second there.
Yeah.
It's like, wait,
I can understand. No, but yeah, no. What the show does is you essentially follow two young girl characters who's traversing a world with basically just them because the world has ended. What that caused that, it appears to be war, but there's nothing, like, they never talk about, they don't know what made, as far as we know at least, they don't know what made the world end, like, concretely or anything like that. And quite frankly, that's not even the point. It's not why did the world end, why did everyone die, where is everyone. It's basically you follow two girls who are content with hopelessness, really. They know they live their life on a day-by-day basis and know that literally their life consists of exploring and finding food so that they can survive yet another day. That is really it. And
go up.
Yeah, they're trying to get to the upper layer. So it's the opposite of My Hero Academia, Made in Abyss, where it's like rather than going down, they're going up. So yeah, no, but I think it's a really interesting show. Like, I think it's very, very interesting to basically see like, catch all the subtle details of what could have happened, all the remnants of war, and just kind of following these characters that you kind of grow, I'm not going to say grow attached to, but like you're forced as the viewer into a situation where you kind of have to accept and be like agree with these characters that you have to be content with their situation because their situation is actually hopeless. Eventually they will die. Eventually they'll not find food. There's no one around apart from the occasional person. But for the most part, it's just them. There's no one. There's nobody making food. There's nobody doing anything. They have no guarantee that they're going to survive to the next day. Something could happen. They can starve to death. They can fall down. There are dangers on the way. They don't meet enemies or anything of the sort. But
do you think they're going to die in the last episode?
No, I do not. I don't think that's where it's gonna go.
It's just an infinite continuation of them driving in a tank up.
They're gonna basically get to the upper layer and see what's there. Is basically where I assume they're gonna end it.
And there's gonna be nothing there, or just a light pointing some other direction to continue their journey.
I have no idea.
That's what I think.
I think it's gonna do something along those lines. I think we might when they get to the top, I think we might get more hints as to what could have happened, like more visual clues as to what could have happened, because everything that you get from this show is essentially dealt you either through the visuals, like through the backgrounds and what you can see, or through what the characters say to each other in conversation. They never turn to the viewer, to you watching, to explain their situation, because you're not there.
Because that's poor storytelling.
Yeah, right. This is them. They know each other. They're not introducing each other. Like, they know each other. They've been together ever since they were sent down into this fucking hellhole. So you're basically just watching these characters, when they're content with the hopelessness and trying to survive, essentially. So I was expecting the worst, but I'm pleasantly surprised by that show.
It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, despite it not going anywhere. So, yay! Fall anime.
Thumbs up.
All done.
Yay.
All right, Tori, next.
So, okay, then I guess it's time for our main topic, visuals in anime. And
well, this was your idea.
This was my idea, yeah. Primarily early visuals in anime, like where it came from, and well, not necessarily where it came from, but I wanted to talk about this because I felt Lupin, since we're going to be talking about Lupin the Third, Part 1 from 1971, is a good example of this, because up until this point in anime basically, for those that are familiar with how anime is made, anime was primarily still being made on Cell, and what happened was, the way it works is they animate or they draw the characters on the cell, and then they have a background. In the background, they layer those on top of that, and then they take the picture, and they have the movement and whatnot. They basically make it like that. So what you would always get is this this static background that doesn't move. There's little to no interaction with the background and barely any movement. Then that's, all movement was character movement or on top of the background. And there are a lot of examples. You can see that Gundam is a good example of that.
Ashita no Joe.
Ashita no Joe is a very good example. And even, for more modern, they kind of did this anyways, even when they transitioned more to CG, or to, not to CG, but like to computer generated animation. But the funniest example, and you could look at this in a lot of older anime, is, you can play the game of spot the next rock that will break.
Oh yeah, I love doing that.
Yeah, right. That's
it's just off color.
Yeah, it's always off color, and that's kind of the same example. That is, they have the background, but they have drawn they have to draw the rocks that will break on top of, like on the cell on top of it. So it's like, and it's always drawn in a different color to kind of highlight where, like, what's gonna happen, because there are multiple people that have to work on it. So it's kind of weird looking at it. You just see like they're two people are fighting, and you can just see in the background there's this oddly like orangish rock in the background. It's like, oh, I guess that's gonna break soon. That's like, it's funny to look at. It is. But Lupin the Third, Part 1, decided to do something, or at least utilize it to I'm not sure if it's the first. It's considered one of the first. I'm not sure if it's actually the first, at least in anime, that decided to try to utilize dynamic backgrounds on a whole different scale. So basically, that is backgrounds where the characters can interact with the backgrounds. The backgrounds will move, rather than having, just characters walking and then, over the background or while the background is standing still, the background would move with them. They could interact with the background. Anything like that.
I believe Cutie Honey also did that, and a lot of things that the early Ghibli guys did. So like Heidi of the Alps, which was an international success, that did it with the rolling hills that she'd run down.
Yes.
I mentioned this earlier in the obscure suggestion, 3,000 Leagues in Search of Mother. There's a really epic scene where the character's on a boat outside of Argentina, if I remember correctly, and the waves are going in the background along with the waves in the foreground.
Yeah.
Sure, it was only two things. It's not something you'd see like in Ponyo, where like every single strand of wave was moving individually from each other.
Yeah. No, and that's, essentially where it goes. Yeah. This is where it goes. But Lupin was, I seem to remember that even Astro Boy has dynamic backgrounds at times. But again, that goes into the same concept that I said before. It's not the background, they draw over it.
Right.
So it's like, and there are moments. Lupin used it a lot. And
consistently per episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I remember going into Lupin the Third. It was a shock for me, because this was I watched shows in the 90s. I'd never gone back to the 70s before, or even 80s at this point. So going all the way back to 1971 to watch Lupin the Third Part 1, I was at first shocked, because, the visuals are very different to what I, as somebody like me, would be used to, having seen mostly modern anime.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at it, my first thought was, this looks ugly, this looks bad. How did people get by with this? How did people like watching this? Obviously, different time. But it wasn't until much later, when I started actually looking into the show and, watching videos by others and things like that, where I started to realize just, where Lupin, like how important Lupin were for where visuals would go in the future, despite how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not the most visually pleasing show you will ever see. The characters looks weird.
Yeah, the character models are a little bit lanky. Fingers are a little bit longer than you would expect.
Tim Burton-esque.
Little hot doggy, you might say. Yeah. The backgrounds, as dynamic as they are, they're very generally more on the plain side. Solid color palettes, basically. If you have a car chasing scene, it's really just blue sky, brown ground kind of thing going on.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the things that I find is also kind of important, to talk about, because when it comes to saying this was one of the first shows that did it, a lot of people, I assume, will go back and look and be like, well, it's not that impressive. No, it's not. It's the reason why it's among the first to do it.
Right.
It's usually not that impressive at the time. It's like, go back to Golgo 13. Golgo 13 is one of the first anime that started really utilizing CGI as a term, for animation, and it has a great chopper scene in CGI. And you look at that now, and you will be blown away by how fucking awful it looks. It is terrible.
Macross did a lot of similar things later.
Berserk 2016. That's some good CG.
Yeah, no, right, but that's kind of the thing, right? Because like you say the first, and I feel like a lot of people they kind of think that, oh, so this is like what I like now looks like, or where that started. No, this was way before. This is what will eventually build to what you like today. This was before they had any idea what they were doing. Golgo 13 was basically, they were fresh off, that came fresh off when actually, CGI became possible, because for animation studios to own things such as computers and, CG equipment was actually affordable. Before that, it couldn't be done because it was just way too expensive.
Now you're talking about the Golgo 13 OVA, I assume, or the movie?
I'm talking about the movie, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so the movie was 1983.
Yeah.
Now to double check my notes here. When I was watching, I think it was Be Forever Yamato. Okay? That was a movie that came out in 1980. That had a singular scene in it, and it was very prevalent at the time for anime visuals, where there's a scene where the ship... Now, to be fair, Yamato primarily takes place in space in a black background with dots.
Yeah.
But there's this scene where the ship goes through, let's call it a wormhole, and it jumps. When it's coming out of the wormhole, you get this vast CGI scene where the colors are immense. They're in your face. Everything's changed on the screen. It was insane to see. Because Tori, I've been on my quest of my own, and when I saw this, after going through all the 70s, basically starting with Lupin in 71, and then getting to 1980 and seeing this singular scene, I went, whoa, here is something I had never seen before, previously.
Yeah. I'm glad. I'm glad you brought that up, because I remember that. I remember seeing that as well. I've seen that exact scene.
In Be Forever Yamato.
I haven't seen the show, but I've seen that scene.
It's very prevalent in this is the next step in technology.
Yeah, because you do have a lot of the way I phrase this is kind of wrong, because what I mean is it's not the first use of CG in Golgo 13. That becomes incorrect. It has been used, especially in certain sequences and openings, as far as I know, maybe endings as well, but especially
right.
Openings.
Yeah, I was just expanding on your thought from Golgo 13.
Yeah, no, that's fine, right? But I know what you're talking about. I remember seeing that scene, and yeah, it's weird to look at, for sure, and there's been quite a few like situations with that with use of CG, especially early on, where it's almost, I don't know, hypnotic to look at.
It was. It really was.
You look at it, and it's like you can see it, but like I don't know, like you don't quite know how to handle it. Like it's your brain don't quite know how to process what you're seeing. It's like this is clearly CG, but like it's
all right. Jumping forward then. In the early 90s, Macross Plus came out.
Yeah.
that set a precedent, at least in from what my experience in the 90s for, and Joe, you've seen this, Macross Plus, in its use of CGI in the dogfighting, and also I believe the AI is Sharon Apple during her singing sequences. So it was two different motions of CGI. You had CGI used in the mech designs and their mech movements, and then with Sharon Apple singing with dynamic lighting.
Yeah, well,
for the visuals. The
biggest problem with CG is that they mix it with normal 2D animation, because it's jarring. Like, you have Knights of Sidonia, which doesn't look that great, but because the entire thing is CG, you don't care. You get used to it. It's not jarring to see. Whereas if you go from something that's beautifully animated or something that's even averagely animated, and then it cuts to hard CG some point, it looks like shit.
Love Live.
You can see it in
Love Live all the time.
Love Live with their fucking pointy ass garden hose elbows. Initial D, but Initial D has a much better reason for why it's CG. Well, it's because they run those cars in like the Gran Turismo engine. That way they get proper reaction around corners and shit.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool to see when Initial D was coming out, and how it utilized not so much computers but
gaming hardware,
a gaming program into its animation. It was I can't think of another show that even remotely does anything like that. Is there another one?
No, not really. There's not many like racing anime anyway.
Yeah,
but for the most,
besides, I don't think it's something that, it's an experiment, but I don't think it's something that anybody's ever considered really viable.
Well, the thing is,
you do obviously have like examples where you do obviously have examples such as what was it, fucking Oculus Trip or stuff like that, where it's so like just an ode to geek culture and gaming culture and weeb culture that it's like, they have fighting game tournaments. Even gamers did so, and like they're clearly, in the case of Oculus Trip, they literally just eventually sit down and play Street Fighter 5. The anime, it's no longer anime, you're actually watching the game. Right? It's like,
right.
You do have stuff like that where essentially they replaced the anime with a game. You're just there watching the anime, you're just watching two people kick ass in Street Fighter 5.
That always brings up things like that, and how you bring up Love Live, a very popular show, undeniably popular with a lot of anime fans. It's animated mostly trash.
Yeah.
Now, when you go back to, let's just say, the 80s, compare it with OVAs, such as
no.
OVAs in movies. Let's just bring up Akira, the benchmark. Okay? The whole movie is an animation marvel, right?
It still is.
Yeah.
And it still is. And the fact that, and honestly, it's a little bit shameful of the anime industry today, where we have a movie from the 1980s that's better animated than things we get in 2017.
Well, if you want to compare Love Live, compare apples to apples. You have Idolmaster, which isn't as popular of a series, but looks 10 times better in every aspect.
And who does each of those? Which studio does that, though? Does
A1.
each of them?
IG.
Well, A1 does Idolmaster, and then you have A1 does Idolmaster, and then there is
Trigger did one of the episodes.
Studio Jesus Christ,
Sunrise
does Love Live,
which is weird because they should have a lot of experience with CG, being that they're the Gundam studio, or that they produce Studio Bones.
Sunrise has different studios, like Studio 1, Studio 2, Studio 3 within. So my theory behind that is their most prevalent staff using CG is dedicated to their Gundam shows.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, Studio Sunrise.
That is just a theory. I base it on nothing, obviously.
Studio Sunrise also produced Studio Bones, which is, I believe, one of the best animation studios, period, right now.
Today, yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
they have
It's up there.
fucking fantastic animators. They have Nakamura on fucking payroll. And
They do.
do you think Sunrise still doesn't have ties to Studio Bones? I mean, seriously, it's like, do you think A1 didn't have ties with Trigger? Because Trigger did one of the episodes straight up in Idolmaster.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And
Well-
besides, like, the thing with A1 as well is they do actually have, contact or access to quite good staff. Quite a good staff. The problem is, obviously, they're freelancers. But I'm glad that they decided to basically bring together all their freelancer talent for Idolmaster, because it was needed.
Yeah, it was.
The best thing about Idolmaster is that it is so clearly a passion project. This is not a project thrown together the thing with Love Live is, and Love Live fans are gonna hate me for this. Love Live is made because it's popular and it makes money.
Yep.
Idolmaster is
Well,
made
yeah,
because the people
that's an obvious statement.
yeah, no, but the people that make Idolmaster is a lot less popular than Love Live. But the people that make Idolmaster, they love Idolmaster. That's why they make it.
Let me put it this way. Idolmaster is such a good series, it put Berserk on hold 3 times.
Yeah.
Berserk's on hiatus because of fucking Idolmaster, alright?
It's pretty good. But it's just, I'm gonna have to backtrack a little bit here, because JD, you mentioned Akira.
Yes.
And Akira is obviously considered by a lot of people the benchmark for what good animation can do. Now, the thing with Akira is that it's a movie. It works on a completely different production schedule than a TV anime would.
Sure.
So that obviously helps. What's interesting though with Akira is Akira did something also very unnormal for its time. It used software to create in-between frames without the animators doing it. Now, obviously, we've seen this being utilized again now, and it looks terrible.
Yes.
Because it tries to recognize the in-betweens, and it usually goes very
Because
poorly.
it predicts.
So what they did...
Can you give an example of that going poorly?
Berserk.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a certain scene in Berserk that stands out.
Yeah. No.
Damn, nipple
no,
bitches.
It's just... like, there's a lot of examples. The problem is, like, it's not proper... Like, some try to use it, but it's not properly being utilized because they haven't found a way to make this software work. It doesn't recognize all the necessary frames. So obviously, since I mentioned Akira, how could Akira do it then if it doesn't work? Like back in the 80s when it doesn't work now. Today, they try to utilize it today, but it doesn't work. Well, obviously, the reason why they could do it back then was because they utilized this program to make the in-betweens, and then they corrected them. So, they had basically people going over the in-between frames and then look at them and then change them to make them good. So obviously, there's still a lot of
they used it as a time.
work.
So they used it as a time saver.
Essentially, yes.
Well,
So
the
that
production of
they could actually
Akira
get
was a
through.
fucking nightmare. It's
Absolutely.
like a Miyazaki style, everyone hates the director kind of nightmare.
Yeah.
But you guys do see where I'm going with how animation and visual just it reaches a point, and then you just can't replicate it.
Yeah, no, that's gonna happen. That always happens, but basically it's gonna happen again, and it kind of already has, We reached an animation pinnacle with One Punch Man recently. Or at least that's what everyone thought until
Did we?
Mob Psycho came out. Yeah. Until Mob Psycho came out, and it realized that basically, it basically just said to One Punch Man that anything you can do, I can do better.
This is Studio Bones.
even-
Get out of my face, Madhouse. Be
Yeah.
gone.
And just to kind of give the middle finger to One Punch Man and show that we can one up it. They have an action scene in Mob where not the entire thing, but portions of it is animated on once. Basically, what that means is one new frame of animation one new drawing of animation every frame.
Yeah.
So that is insane. Like that's the sort of thing
That's
that
Disney,
Disney
yeah.
does.
That's a couple.
It's like they do that.
That's a couple short sequences for KyoAni. Short sequences, not fight scenes.
Yep. And they do that for a fight. It's like, they're basically like, no, we're going all out with this production.
But again, Bones does have a secret weapon, and it's the king of impact frames.
It is.
Nakamura.
And it kind of just goes to show, because you see a lot of the fights, or not a lot of them, but you have especially that one fight, when Mob fights the psychic that tries to kidnap his brother.
Mm-hmm.
You have that scene that was part of it animated by Yutaka Nakamura. But the rest of it is animated by the people at Bones that work directly under Nakamura and is learning animation directly from him. So it's like, you have the master and his students working on a single fight scene in that show.
Well, it's funny that when that happened, and now that we have the second season of One Punch Man announced, Madhouse isn't working on it again.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
so I find that interesting. Like, how are the visuals going to be this next time around? Because JC staff
probably did most of the animation for Madhouse anyway.
Did that, yeah. So is it now going to have a more artistic feel, which is more JC staff, now that they have full control?
I don't think so, quite frankly. Because the thing with One Punch Man, everybody gets caught up on Madhouse did the first season. No.
They just got their name on it.
Madhouse paid for it. Madhouse paid for it. That's why they're considered a studio that made it. They're not actually the studio that made it. There's technically not a single studio that made One Punch Man. Bones did a lot. I don't have the list right now. I wish I had it, but you can basically look up the list of studios and people associated with One Punch Man, and you'll realize that basically every studio worked on it. There's some people did more, but the fact of the matter, the reason why Madhouse got their name on it is because, again, they paid for it. I assume it's going to be kind of a similar situation with the second season and JC staff. I assume that the reason why JC staff gets their name on it is because they probably invested a lot in it. So, but do I think they're going to basically be solely responsible for One Punch Man Season 2? No.
Well,
and if they are, God, I'm not looking forward to One Punch Man Season 2.
Well, the problem with One Punch Man is it's already been redrawn. And the style in which it's already been redrawn in is incredibly hard to animate.
Mm-hmm.
So they either need to totally ignore that it's been redrawn at all and do the Mob Psycho route where they keep the character designs as bad as they are and just animate the living shit out of it. Or
it looks so good.
Or they maintain the redrawn look, but have to outsource because of how labor intensive it's going to be to animate. And in at least an acceptable fashion, especially because it's a season 2. People already have an expectation, and if it's not there, they're just going to drop the show.
Oh yeah, no, that is obviously the problem with these kinds of shows. If they make One Punch Man Season 2 and they run into any kind of production issues along the way, bye One Punch Man.
Yeah.
People are gonna there's gonna be riots.
Well, it's already not popular in Japan.
It's not very popular, which is weird because the manga is very popular, but
the anime is popular internationally.
Yes, I know. But it's popular enough to get a second season. Although I will say, I feel like getting a second season in today's anime market is a lot easier than it used to be. Before it was just, if you tried anything you could to strike gold, and then if you did, yes, we can make a second season. And,
it used to be. We're gonna launch your show, and it's gonna be at least 50 to 100 episodes.
Well, if you that far back, yes.
Yeah, and we have the right to cancel it at any time. That's why you saw a lot of shows that would just prematurely end, or they would reach a point at 25 or 39 episodes. You saw that happen to a few Gundam shows. Nadia, Secret of Blue Water, OVAs in the 90s, Ushio and Tora, Arslan Senki, because visually those animes were good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
they were solid, no doubt. They just weren't popular, so obviously visuals don't have a lot to do with anything. If that was to backtrack that statement, we do have Kyoto Animation.
They basically made their name off of looking pretty, yeah.
Yeah, and not having any story whatsoever.
Right, that's the opposite end of the spectrum. While earlier in decades past, visually it didn't really matter. It was the content that mattered. Now we've kind of reached this other end where you have Kyoto Animation as the best example of basically the same show over and over again, with whatever they put out, generally speaking.
Or Haruhi.
Mm-hmm.
The same show or Haruhi, that's it.
Yeah.
Where the content within it is very minimal, yet they're visually it's very solid. There's no doubt about that.
Oh,
well, it's like they spend so much money waiting for the art to look pretty and the animation that they don't want to risk a story that's not going to sell everybody. That's
essentially.
Which is why they keep doing Tragic Girlfriend, because weebs buy Tragic Girlfriend stories. I don't know why. They just do it.
It's not even like Tragic Girlfriend. It's just the tragic thing of the week.
Yes, tragic
drama,
female. Oh no.
Trauma's trauma, essentially.
Yeah,
but like,
winter disease.
I mean, I'm obviously, since we're talking Kyoto Animation, now we obviously are waiting for Violet Evergarden, and I myself am very excited for this show now. Not because I necessarily think I'm going to love the show itself. However, I've seen clips from it, and it looks visually beautiful. And I know, like, that's obviously like, okay, yeah, sure, it's Kyoto Animation, but no, I mean, this is Kyoto Animation going above and beyond what they normally do. This is, to me, Kyoto Animation basically doing a One Punch Man or a Mob Psycho. They're essentially trying to show, now that Bones and Madhouse
in the middle of the street,
have shown that basically what they can do with animation, because Kyoto Animation was the top dog in terms of animation, and they only had to make stuff look fluid, and everybody was okay with that. But now you have these other studios that have shown we can do better, or we can do fantastic animation that even makes your shows look pale in comparison. So I feel like this is basically Kyoto Animation telling everyone, like, no, we're still the top dog. We're still the best when it comes to animation. So, I mean, it's kind of just...
We are still the prettiest when it comes to animation.
We've somehow gotten to this... Yeah, we've somehow gotten to this point where we're molding what visuals in anime is with animation. Now, that is much different than art. Clearly.
Of course. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing, or something that we see more recently now, is you have a lot more people now that fall into, myself included, into the Sakuga branch of anime watchers. And those are the people that appreciate animation. Not art, not the character designs and stuff like that, not backgrounds, animation, the actual movement. What makes something move? How does it move? And how does it look? So then obviously, you have the conflicting ideas of what should animation be, or what, I absolutely love Mob Psycho. I think it's one of the best looking shows I've seen in ages. Ask your average anime fan, ask your average Kyoto anime fan, they'll say it looks fucking awful.
It's animated terribly.
Look at the character design, or look at the animation, which is what they'll usually say.
It's a pretty fucking simple. It's a pretty simple statement. Animation is how things move. Art is what it looks like. It's really not that challenging. Right. They're not the same. They're very much different.
And what I don't like is the new basically, well, it's not even new, it's been around for a while, but the ideology that states that animation must stay on model. The reason why I have issues with that is because
smear frames are fucking awesome.
If you look at old, like, fucking guides to animation written by people that work for Disney and whatnot, one of the most common and probably, like, best forms of animation, the thing that they say everybody should stretch, or not everyone should fucking try to be, but, like, one of the things that make movement stand out in animation is the stretch and pull technique. The stretch and pull technique is obviously, like Joe says, with smear frames, or just generally, like you see, JD, you've recently seen Konosuba, and that uses stretch and pull a lot, where you see the characters, they look like they're shrinking and stretching out, and like their like forms and whatnot, it's just blurring out, and they don't stay on their model. They're not consistent all the time, but it moves.
But it does move. It's a very common thing with Konosuba's a good example. Anything from Studio Trigger, the
Yeah.
most recent in which, Little Witch Academia, say it's not animated well. And I go, well, hold on.
Who the fuck said that?
Yeah, I've never
Who
heard
the
that.
fuck said that?
It's been said before on other podcasts.
That's fucking wrong.
YouTubers. They're wrong. Well, they're thinking the mindset is it's not animated well because of the fact they're using smear frames. They're not doing what you normally see.
Well, then you have to say that Disney's animated poorly, and everyone knows that's fucking wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
So because something moves differently doesn't make it bad.
Well, I think anime should strive for fluidity in action scenes, and then if it needs to be on model, it needs to be on model. That's basically it.
Sure, like
you need to do what you need to do where you need to do it, and that's that.
Yeah. If you have a character standing there talking to somebody, you don't want to see, like, you know,
eyes
his head
go.
like fucking fall out of his his eyes fall out of his fucking skull or something. Like, that's weird.
What I believe people are referring to when they say stay on model is, at least right now, upon recording, is something from what Toei Animation does, and that's Dragon Ball Super, where their models, whether they're in the distance or in the foreground, are so inconsistent with how they're making the characters look. But that has to do with art, the character art. It has nothing to do with visual or the movement of the characters.
You also have to remember that.
And since it's Toei, you know it's just going to be a flash, and the characters are standing and going to talk some more.
Well, you have to remember that most people have this weird thought that you're supposed to pause and look at each frame. It's supposed to move. That's why it's animation. I'm not looking at a fucking flip book, and if you see the images in the background are like, oh, that's a little smeared. Of course it is. They're supposed to be moving quickly towards this direction. That's literally what a smear frame is, because you're smearing the character design over the frame.
Yep.
That way,
and that's where that misconception comes from with Little Witch Academia. They pause it, and then they're looking at it, and they go,
that looks
"Oh,
ugly.
that's not animated well. That looks like shit." I'm like, well, no, it's supposed to be moving, and you stopped it from moving.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you can also really utilize with smear frames and, you know, not staying on model is that rather animation staying on model is incredibly rigid and can really only move left or right because it's 2D. However, when you start smearing it up, you start to create a almost 3D like space where it feels like the character can move in and out of the screen because it feels like
it has depth.
Rather than somebody, let's say somebody's punching, rather than him punching left, he's punching towards you. If try doing that and stay on model.
Didn't you see that? Didn't we see some of that in One Punch Man?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of it in One Punch Man.
Well,
now, for what? Go.
Okay, so basically the way I like to explain smear frames is: you ever taken a picture and had someone in the fucking picture move on you, and you get that like little wave effect that goes on? That's a real life smear frame.
Yep.
That's what it is. That's a fucking smear frame. We're actually watching video right now, and I'm waving my hand in front of my face like a fucking retard to show that there's literal smear frames inside of this video. Yep. And those are what smear frames are. If someone says it's poorly animated, well, this is real life. Real life is pretty fucking well animated, if you ask me. So
realistic.
So I got to assume that any smear frames that go on in anime that look correct, that look like they should be there, is a pretty good artistic choice. I mean, the crowning example is the pain fight in Naruto that everyone always fucking shows. Like, my pain is greater than yours with the stupid fucking stretched face. You're not supposed to pause that. It looks great in motion. It really does.
Oh, yeah.
But if you pause it, you look fucking retarded.
Yeah. You can argue that because, I mean, like, I've seen that fight, and obviously, I would say it's a bad example of smear frames because it doesn't really work as well as it's intended to. But the fact of the matter is, that is what it's intended to look like.
Yeah.
Is it done to perfection? No.
No, well, I mean,
not.
shit.
The guy who animated it, he's done the same things later, and he's done it a lot better than he did there. But essentially, that is what he's trying to do. He's trying to create, you know, fluid motion. He's trying to basically trick you into believing that he's moving incredibly fast, even though in reality he's not really moving at all. And that's kind of it. But what I want to touch on was what Joe said. He said, you're not supposed to pause animation and look at it frame by frame. And obviously he's correct. Animation is movement, not what it looks like on a still frame. The counter argument that I see to that all the time is, well, what about Studio Ghibli? You can pause that at any moment and it looks fantastic.
It's also all slow motion.
And they did all that in 2D. No, they didn't. Studio Ghibli was one of the first studios that utilized, and not CG, but like computer integrated animation. And they did that to make everything stay on model. Now, it was still largely animated 2D and by hand. But for it to stay on model, they decided to utilize computer powers. Which is where it's been falsely assumed that Miyazaki was against this. No, he's one of the first people that wanted to include this. He was afraid that people would get lazy and not do their job.
And he was right.
On this program being integrated. Yes. Which was why he then constantly told people, you're making this, you're drawing this by hand, but this program is supposed to help you, but you don't get to rely on this program. You still have to do your work. But that is basically, why when people say, well, Studio Ghibli can do it without going off model. Yes, with the help of computer technology.
With the help of literal sweatshops.
Yeah, that too.
Disney did the same thing. They had fucking literal sweatshops working. Of course they can stay on model.
Yeah. So let me then ask, visually in anime, from a background perspective, for background art, just from that sort of definition of visual, what are some anime that have stood out to you over the decades?
For me, obviously, you've heard me rave about this before, and you've seen me share screenshots.
Yeah, and Green Gables.
Akage no An.
Yep.
Yeah, Akage no An. Those watercolor backgrounds are absolutely stunning. They're fantastic to look at, and no matter, that's obviously from the 70s, 79, but 70s. No matter what year I go to, really, I still look at that and I go, these backgrounds are good, but Akage no An's backgrounds were fantastic. So it's like, I'm not saying there's nothing, you obviously have Future Boy Conan as well, have pretty good backgrounds.
Was a Miyazaki work, so that's not a work. Yeah, it's not a shocker.
Akage no An was also a Miyazaki work.
Yep.
He didn't do the backgrounds by himself, but he did work on the layouts for it, so he did do work there. So yeah, for me, Akage no An is easily up there.
I'm gonna go way more modern. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I like their choice of color palette. I like that everything moves. I like that it's all like, it's, these are square buildings, so let's make them fucking square. Cool, great.
Their choice of color palette. Every color.
Yeah, all the colors. What color's the sky? Fucking purple. Fuck them.
The one that stood out recently, and one reason why the show was probably as popular as it was Made in Abyss, with its backgrounds. To stay present. Now, to go backwards, shows like basically any post-apocalyptic mech show from the 80s and OVAs, those had amazing backgrounds. We just watched Bubblegum Crisis. As much as you guys didn't like it, the background art was visually appealing.
It was
fine. I would actually talk about Maria Holic, though.
Oh, yeah.
Anything Shaft puts out.
Anything Shaft puts out is very artistically done, and it makes you look behind the characters. To me, if I'm looking behind the characters to see how everything's meticulously drawn out, or anything that looks appealing and interesting, you've done your job with your background art, and you're making the show more visually appealing.
Exactly.
That's why I say, that's why, to go back again to Bubblegum Crisis, it got me to look behind what was going on, to see the broken down city, the grittiness of the atmosphere going. It does so much, other than what a lot of shows we see today, where it's just a very plain classroom, or they're walking down a street, and you see, and I see this all the time on Twitter and other anime outlets, where they show comparisons of the anime and then this place in real life, and it's a street, and they've drawn the lamps and the telephone wires and poles. Like, okay, so
But
I can go to a street too and draw that. Like,
then you have
that. I mean,
series like Monogatari where the lack of background characters is an artistic choice.
Yeah.
Because the main character doesn't care about anyone in the background. You only see the people he cares about. Now, clearly that's a cost-saving measure, but it's also artistically a choice that they made. Yep. Of course, if you go to any of those places, they're fucking psychotically drawn. Like that playground where they had they had a roller coaster in the playground.
Oh,
the chef doesn't. They don't care. They do whatever they want, and I love them for it.
And I just want to use a modern example as well for good backgrounds, good-looking backgrounds, even though it's a shitty show. Coppelion. Coppelion is the first show that Coppelion is the first show that like blew me away with good-looking backgrounds. And I mean, when we're talking good-looking backgrounds, we're talking some of those backgrounds look photorealistic. They probably they did. Yeah, okay. Thanks. That's right. I'm glad you guys can't see what they just did. Anyways, yeah, it blew me. No, but like the backgrounds look so good. You look at some of the water running through them. You look at how nature has reclaimed the city in Coppelion, and it just like. Granted, sure, the color palette is mostly consists of gray, green, brown, darkish red, like
the AAA games color palette.
Red. Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, we're talking about a city where that's been basically nuked, not nuked, but like a nuclear power plant has gone off and radiation's ever, and basically nature started reclaiming it. So it makes sense. It makes sense. Like there's a lot of greenery and a lot of water. The water looks absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, so that's a very very good background. I wanted to mention something that I kind of forgot to mention, and I kind of wanted to mention it because, especially like Joe, I know you like Monogatari, you like Shaft.
I do,
and a lot of their styles.
Joe likes Shaft? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I lied. He doesn't like them at all, actually.
Okay.
Madoka Maguka.
You're just spouting nonsense here.
I even like Madoka Maguka.
And yeah, and a lot of the things that they're known for, especially Akiyuki Shinbo, is obviously something that he has been inspired by somebody else to do, or shown from. And you can see this in basically. And I challenge anyone to watch any anime and not find this, because most anime utilize it. And that is, I'm going to talk a little bit about Osamu Dezaki. And this guy has had an interesting career, obviously. He's the director of Ashita no Joe, both seasons.
I thought we were going to have a much more interesting talk. Mostly. I thought we were going to start talking about Tezuka.
Well, yeah, no, I understand why you want to go from there. We can do that as well.
No, let's save that for an entire podcast.
Other than that, sure.
Tezuka's definitely his own animal. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yep, we'll watch.
And then we
Blackjack
have,
so we're watching all of Astro Boy, right?
No, fuck that. We're watching Blackjack.
No,
we're checking that right off my list.
Osamu Dezaki, he was the director of Blackjack.
Yeah, there you go. See, full circle. I got you.
Yep. And what this guy did? This guy did a lot of stuff, because remember, Osamu Dezaki, he was working back in the early 70s. He got into anime in was it the 60s or whatever? I don't remember. He's been working on anime for a long time. He's obviously dead now, but what he did, he decided to take what was very rigid anime with, kind of sticking to its ideals of being animation, 2D animation. So, very, very strict movement, very, very like 2D plane, everything moves left to right.
Mm-hmm.
And what he wanted to do, because Osamu Dezaki, he was a huge film buff, and he wanted to change anime. He wanted to make anime move.
Is he that 24 fucking FPS motherfucker?
I think he might be. But what he did, essentially, is obviously he played a lot with camera usage and different shot composition and utilizing of different shots, such as for example, he liked using split screen a lot, and as well as, he liked the Dutch angle a lot as well. Some of his...
So what is the Dutch angle, Tori?
The low third.
The Dutch angle. Let's look that up, actually, because I don't know the definition.
It's essentially the low third angle. It's used a lot in like a French New Wave.
Yeah.
Where you're essentially looking up at the character.
Mm-hmm.
You see it in
That's the one.
You see it in Fight Club, a lot.
Yeah.
It's in Fight Club all the time.
Yep.
Well, that movie came out in the 80s. No one's seen Fight Club anymore.
Of course.
You don't talk about Fight Club, JD.
Oh, you're right. I shouldn't talk about it.
But the thing that he was most known for, and you still see this, you see all this today, but you see this in basically every anime you watch, is something he so appropriately titled Postcard Memories. And if you've seen Ashitano Joe, or like I said, basically any anime, you'll realize that this is when it takes the normally very simple animation and freezes it into a highly detailed drawing. It's complete still frame. Highly detailed. But you'll remember this a lot from Ashitano Joe, where, some sort of reaction or dramatic moment happens, and then the camera just zooms in on Joe, and he becomes hyper detailed. Yeah, during the punch and stuff like that. And that was something, obviously...
Cross counter!
Yeah. This was something that was obviously, doesn't come as a shock. This was born as a cost-cutting measure. Because, quite frankly, they couldn't keep animating everything all the time.
You want a more modern example?
But this was obviously a way...
You want a more modern example? Unit 1 with Kaoru. 12 goddamn seconds.
Yep. And it's basically, it's a staple of animation. They utilize it in more or less every show at some point.
Oh, in the 70s, it was very prevalent.
It was.
For the Western audience, I'm sure all of us had seen Speed Racer at some point.
Ooh, ah.
Ha ho ha, and it zooms in on the character's face. Ha, zooms out.
I must talk about moving my
Someone
mouth.
says another thing, zooms into another one, and it's just always like that in the show. That's a great example. Those late 60s, early 70s shows. Saw it with Cutie Honey. Saw it with Devilman quite a bit. That monstrosity of 1972.
That figure getting
See what I
released.
did there?
Aniplex, you might actually get my money for once. You motherfuckers.
No, don't give him your money.
No.
Steal it.
I can't. It's a figure.
Yeah.
Steal it.
Steal it.
Bootleg.
Look, if someone
Download
wants
it.
to let
Let
me
the
cast
sweatshops
it,
in Malaysia make it for you.
look, if someone wants to let me cast it, I will make everyone in the Discord resin figures, except for Tori and anyone international. Sorry, bud.
Oh, so half our Discord. Excellent.
Yeah. No, but that was basically, I wanted to mention him as well because he is Osamu Dezaki. Unsurprisingly, he actually gets part of his, that's not his real name, but he gets part of his name from
Osamu Tezuka. Yeah.
Yeah. So, he's a big fan of that guy. But yeah, no,
Godfather,
that guy
Godfather of manga.
This guy, Osamu Dezaki, started his life as a mangaka as well before he started working in anime. But yeah, no, that Osamu Dezaki is a big reason why, anime essentially, why anime took its turn and decided to go more of not treat itself as simply animation as a, something captured on a 2D plane, but rather wanted to take more of a film approach to the way it looks. And obviously, it's postcard memories, the still frames, which you will see in a lot of anime even today. And it is absolutely beautiful to see that something that was created back in the early 70s, late 60s probably even, is still being used as a tool in animation, mostly for cost saving measures, yes, but it's still being utilized today. That is actually quite incredible in my opinion.
Just in case anyone was interested in why I was talking about the guy who made 24 frames the standard, that was it's an odd fact and it's not really related, but I'll go over it quick. It's because real film, if you're gonna watch a really old movie, those film reels only ran 24 frames, 24 of the little pictures inside of the film in a second. It's 24 FPS. And people have kind of bastardized that into saying, well, the human eye can only see 24 frames per second. Hard bullshit. hard bullshit. I mean, people can tell the difference between a 60 hertz, which is 60 hertz is a refresh rate, so it produces a new image every 1/60th of a second. People can tell the difference between a 60 hertz monitor and a 144 and a 240. Your eyes are way more advanced than 24 frames per second. If it wasn't, then you would have a much worse time. I mean, you have one frame links in fighting games that people are hitting, not consistently, but consistent enough that they can clearly see that is going to happen. So people said, oh, well, the eye can only see 24 frames per second. That's why anime is animated at 24 frames per second. It's not the case. That was it. Interesting fact.
Yeah. And just as a little comment as well to everybody that keeps saying, why doesn't anime finally evolve to 60 FPS? Well, first
It's
of all,
animated
anime is created that way. Yep. Anime, like I said, anime is animated on basically a scale from 1 to 3, either 1s, 2s, or 3s. And like I said, 1s is a new drawing every frame, 2s is a new drawing every 2 frames, and 3s is a new drawing every 3 frames.
And it keeps going up from there.
Most anime...
Those are the normal ones.
Those are the common ones. Those are the ones that are most used. Anime is primarily animated on 3s. And then, you have obviously Disney at 1s and stuff like that. But the way... Basically, the way it works is... If you were to upgrade... So, like, basically what you can take is, in anime you have a drawing every... Yeah, you have a new drawing every 3 frames. So it's technically not even 30 or 24.4, which is what it actually is. You wouldn't get that. You don't have that many drawings in an anime. So let's just say then that they decided, yeah, sure, let's upgrade to 60 frames a second. Well, that scale will basically then probably go down to 2, 4s, and
2s, 4s, and 6s, and 8s, yeah.
Yeah, 2, 4s, and 6s, yeah. 2, 4, 6, 8s, like basically up like that, because you won't get more frames. That's basically, especially not with the way anime is created now and its production schedules and whatnot. They don't have time to draw that much.
Well, to entirely undercut what I was saying earlier, the human brain is very good at filling in spatial gaps. That's why things that flash from like your hand being down to your hand being up doesn't look like a hard... Well, it looks like a hard cut, but I mean, your brain puts in that, their hands moved in between there. So it doesn't look terrible.
Whoa, your hand just teleported. What happened?
The human brain's very good at filling in those blanks. So you can get away with those, 2s.
Am I watching
3s.
just because? Oh my god.
You can get away with those 2s or 3s because the human brain is good at filling in those blanks. That's also why blinking doesn't affect you that much, because you're not filling in a blank. Your mind's just going, okay, this happened when you were blinking. It's not like a hard cut. And that's basically why that developed. Well, kind of. I mean... Who want to get into, neurology or whatever? I don't really feel like this is the right place to do that.
Well, we're all professional neurologists here. That's what we do on a daily basis, actually.
I'm actually just a hardline nerd. I like facts.
Yeah. We like facts about neurons and neutrons
like
and all those things.
Like science a lot.
Yeah. Well,
may science be with you.
And also with you. Raise up your hearts, raise it up to the sky. Ding, 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 ding.
But I think we've... Unless anybody has anything else to add, I think we've basically butchered the whole anime visuals to death.
Yeah,
now.
I think we've basically bastardized this topic to the point where now we're talking about cinematography. So
no, it's well, I mean, they are related as much as.
Yeah, of course they're related.
Well, now we're on neurology.
But now we're going on to.
Now we're not really related.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of if you really
gotta fucking go for it if you're gonna put it there.
If we go full circle, it all goes back to the human brain. So
that's right.
Without your brain, you would not be able to process what you're seeing on a screen.
Yeah.
Should we go all the way back to the beginning of man?
Well, first there was fire, and then they made animated human life shadow puppetry on cave walls.
Okay, so first we had like the building blocks of life, right? And it got struck by lightning. That lightning formed essentially a little one-celled organism. That one-celled organism doubled and doubled and doubled.
Whoa.
And then eventually you had like kind of like fish. Then from fish you
kind of like fish. Oh my god, you've opened my eyes to evolution.
Yeah.
Then from fish is dangerous. Okay?
What did I go to school for? I could have just listened to Joe.
And then from fish you essentially made reptiles. Reptiles walked on Earth for a little while. You made amphibians.
All right. So I think it's time to move on to Rupin Sensei.
Rupin Sensei.
Okie doke.
What do you say, guys?
The Third.
Rupin the Third.
Well, that's one way to put it.
Okay. If you don't mind, Tori, I'd like to just do the introduction over Rupon Sensei.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you have that one.
You will let me have it. Great. So, Lupin the Third is a series started as a manga in the late 60s, 1967, from a guy under the name Monkey Punch. Very famous now. It was through Weekly Manga Action. And it has gotten quite a standard in anime. He's become synonymous with the industry. He's been around a long time, this certain character, which is Lupin. He's a gentleman thief, and he gets his ragtag bunch of other thieves, his friends. You have Jigan, the shooter. You have Goemon, the samurai. And then you have Fujiko.
The whore.
The mystery woman.
The
whore.
Yes.
Right?
The Bond woman, actually, if you want to go by
the Bond woman, yes.
Yeah.
So,
well, I stand by my statement.
I agree.
So the first series is what we're talking about, which came out in 1971.
Yeah.
It was shown in the West a little bit later. Most prevalent now, at least in our generation, is what showed on, at least for me and Joe, sorry Tori, was on Cartoon Network's Toonami in the early 2000s. But it had been on TV previously quite a few times. There are a total of 6 main series now. You have a Part 2, which was the mid-70s. You have Part 3, which was the 80s. Part 4 is The Woman Called Fujiko Mine, which is a focus on her in an episodic format. And then the 5th series, which just came out a couple years ago, and they announced a 6th one. So, seemingly, there's been Lupin in almost every single decade since the 70s.
Basically,
which is quite amazing to think about how a very episodic show in nature can still captivate audiences worldwide. Just the same characters, the same model of Lupin's trying to steal something. Morally, is it wrong or right? How is he going to get screwed over? By whom? Is he ever going to actually get with Fujiko? Does he get with Fujiko?
Yes.
Things. Yeah, of course he does.
Many times.
Many times. They do show it. The manga has been regarded as a very mature and more sexual and violent in nature, while the much later versions of the anime shows are very much diluted for more of a family-friendly experience. But in this first part we're going to discuss took more of this direct manga translation, which is why it's regarded as kind of the better version of the series, even though Part 2 is better animated.
Of course.
But of course it came out later.
I just want to shoot in something. One of the things that's kind of important, as you mentioned, we basically had a lot of Lupin over the years, and basically almost every decade. And there's a whole lot of spin-offs, and Fujiko Mine is a spin-off. You have all those movies, even the Miyazaki movie.
Cagliostro.
Yeah, like there's a whole lot of things. Basically, in order to kind of see how much Lupin there's been over the years, Lupin no longer adapts the manga of Lupin the Third.
No, but actually, it did it first.
Monkey Punch is making his manga based off of the anime at this point. He is basically writing the manga for the anime, because the anime is so much further along than he ever got in the manga. And one thing that's very interesting as well with the manga is Lupin the Third was not a series meant to get this kind of attention or this kind of success. It was actually just supposed to be a filler manga, a short manga made to fill in time between releases.
It was supposed to be a one-shot, wasn't it?
So, yeah, essentially. And even, if you ask Monkey Punch himself, he doesn't like his own name because he wasn't even supposed to. He never even got to choose his own, his own pen name. Yeah. It was basically just like, you're Monkey Punch, you're going to write Lupin the Third, and take it from there.
Now he's a very well-off kind of guy.
He's a very well-off kind of guy with a name that he doesn't even like. So it's actually kind of hilarious, but no, it is a very good example of like nobody actually knows what will become popular until they've tried it. And
Right.
Lupin the Third somehow just blew everyone out of the water for what I like to consider being the fact that since it was just supposed to be a one-off and he could do whatever he wanted, it's just that he could do whatever he wanted, and people liked that he could do whatever he wanted.
Well, people at heart seem to like creativity, whether or not they want to admit it.
Right.
And at a certain point, there's a certain creativity threshold that no matter what you do, if it makes sense and it's, kind of like, if it all fits, it's going to do well among a certain group of people. It's just how many of those people you can pull in as fast as possible. Lupin kind of fell into this perfect storm of creativity and just getting basically everyone off of this one shot, and they kept complaining like, when's the next one? When's the next one? And they got so many not complaints, but they got so many write-ins that they were just like, yeah, you're just gonna go ahead and keep pumping that shit out.
Yep.
Yeah, no more than 4 years later, the anime came out, and the rest is history. I have a DVD complete set of part 1 myself.
That is incredible.
It's
Did you get it on Blu-ray to make it perfect?
It's from 1971. I do not need a Blu-ray copy.
No, I need a Blu-ray
Lupin the
copy
Third.
of Speed Racer. I need it.
Oh, jeez. I can't wait to see that 144p anime. Oh.
Woo!
Yeah.
Well,
I want a Blu-ray
on,
if we can use it as a CRT.
So continuing on a little why we've been making the joke Rupon Sansei. There was a short period of time where I believe this was in the 90s to the early 2000s, where there was a copyright issue with Maurice LeBlanc, some type of international intellectual property he had. And
Lupin.
it only prevented, the copyright was only valid outside of Japan. So Lupin was still Lupin in Japan, but once it went international, he had to be he was referred to as Rupon or Wolf in some cases. But I've seen on a lot of, if you see a lot of Lupin movies, old DVD sets, you'll see Lupin the Third written on them, kind of like a similar Captain Harlock kind of thing. You see Herlock. You're like, oh, they just fucked up. It's misspelled. No, it's because of copyright issue.
Star Blazers, $21.99. Kill me, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this Maurice LeBlanc is a series of novels that were coming out over a character named Arsène Lupin, and he was a gentleman thief. So clearly there was some inspiration here, but as soon as the copyright was done and over with, there was no more issue, and hence why we still get Lupin to this day, and he's not Rupin.
Rupin the Third.
I mean, there was a lot of copyright problems, though, wasn't it? Because you have Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that as well, and that was just on no fly.
Well, Sherlock Holmes is in the public domain now, and I don't give a shit what anyone says.
Yeah, that was very much in the public domain a while ago, but it's just the fact of the name and who the name was associated with. That's where it was.
It's like
Well, yeah, but then I'm starting to think: was it then Maurice's Arsène Lupin? Was that the one that had issues with using Sherlock Holmes? I think that might have been the case actually. Because I know he's not exactly unknown for having his own deal of copyright problems.
I'm not exactly versed on Japanese law.
I'm not versed on how Sherlock Holmes came into play, but it wouldn't be shocking. There was a little issue with how much it related to James Bond, because Bond was very prevalent. It was very popular with the whole Sean Connery films coming out at the time.
Oh.
So that brought up
directly inspired by it.
Oh yeah, it's directly inspired. Lupin itself is like a carefree version of James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
That brought on a lot of issue then legally with what constitutes as a parody, what's then just straight up stealing, and then there was a lot of other things going on throughout the years. I mean, over the decades, the amount of licenses, just speaking from the West, seemingly changes every 3 to 4 years, almost it's gone through like every film is by a different has a license from a different company. The manga can be distributed by 3 different companies, but only certain volumes. So I mean, the list just goes on with how it goes. Now, luckily, with what happened with part 4 and 5 with a woman called Fujiko Mine and the newest series, that you can see those on Crunchyroll, and it's all good now. I believe Funimation has the rights now, and Discotech has the distribution rights.
Discotech doing God's work as always. Speaking of copyright hell, there's one series that has been incredibly popular in Japan and just started releasing in America properly, and this is all because of the music industry. It's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. All their characters are named after bands, groups, songs, people. I mean, it's part 1. You have Zappelli.
AC/DC.
You have Zappelli. That's part 2. It's AC/DC, Santana, Cars. Yeah. You have Killer Queen, which is part 4. You have Crazy Diamond, part 4. Part 5, you're gonna have Black Sabbath, straight up, just named Black Sabbath.
I wonder what they're gonna do with that.
I think they're just gonna say it in Japanese perfectly, Black Sabbath, and then it's just gonna say like Purple Sabbath on the subs, just like they did with Killer Queen, Deadly Queen. They say straight Killer Queen right there.
Yeah.
But the manga not just started, but not too long ago started releasing, and it's been going since like 87, 80, 89, something like that. But we just finally got it. Not exactly sure how Viz pulled it off, but we got it. Because it must have been copyright hell to try to get all those bands to say okay.
Sure, sure. So yeah, Lupin the Third has gone through quite a few issues over the years, and it has a lot to do with Monkey Punch just creating a character out of, I was just given this and I'm going to do it, didn't ask for any permission. I did just look it up. The public domain of LeBlanc was a French novelist, and he passed away in 1941. So 70 years after death, that's when the public domain became where you can use the name Arsène Lupin. And even in France, apparently, the series was known as Edgar Detective Cambrolier. Edgar of Burglary. I had a harder time saying the English word than the French word.
Ironically.
What has my life become?
I don't know, you were in Canada. Where the national language is French.
No, that's only one province. But anyways.
The national language in one province is French. Got it.
No. It's correcting you. No, it's one province. It's not a national language. English is the national language. Okay.
Mid-stretch there.
So, Lupin the Third, Part 1. We get... It's episodic. It spans, 26 episodes? I believe it was 23 episodes. So not your standard by we know it today. You can find it in many... I think it's been redubbed 2 or 3 different times at this point. If I'm not mistaken.
It's possible.
Or you can watch it in Japanese.
Yeah.
Or you can watch it in Japanese with English subtitles.
I actually wanted to speak Dalek to me, nothing else. I would like it dubbed in Chinese with Cantonese subtitles.
No. Not happening.
Please.
So there was a pilot that came out in the 60s, and I imagine in 69 it was in black and white. And then in 1971 it got its debut where episode title was called Is Lupin Burning? And this is essentially a Formula 1 race.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And in the 70s, Formula 1 was, oh my god, the shit internationally. So it only made
Grand
sense.
Prix, wasn't it?
Say again, Tori?
That was the Monaco Grand Prix, wasn't it?
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Where Lupin himself enters the Monaco Grand Prix. And it's still to this day one of my favorite Lupin episodes. I can't tell you how many times I've just watched this singular one, because it really sets up who Lupin is and who his buddy Jigan is, and just who Zenigata is. He's the detective that's works for Interpol, and he wants to catch Lupin. That's his life goal. and just you get the overall arcing, Italian Job type plot where it's really over the top and how to steal this one thing, and it all takes place during a Formula One race.
With bad guys and everything.
Bad guys, and you got your bad Bond-like villain, and Lupin's the good guy, even though he's a thief instead of someone hired by some British Secret Service agency.
Some MI6.
Yeah, good guy on the wrong side of the law. No, it was quite the, they really like the Monaco Grand Prix, so much so that they also have an episode in part 2 dedicated to the Monaco Grand Prix, so they didn't just do it once, they did it twice.
Oh, they go back to Formula 1 quite a few times, and the 70s
yeah,
and 80s...
but I'm talking about the Monaco Grand Prix race.
The specific one, yeah.
Yeah, no, so they really like that one. I understand, I agree with JD. Like, obviously, I was not sure what to expect, and jumping into that episode, and I was like, this is fantastic. This is a good show. I'm looking forward to watching this show.
And after watching episode 1, you get this feeling like, okay, yeah, it's kind of batshit insane with how they steal said items that they want to do, what they want to accomplish. But then in the second episode, you get Lupin fighting a magician that's out to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you guys think when you after going from a Formula 1 race to Lupin going one-on-one with a magician who's able to shoot hands from his flames and set people on fire?
Well, like I said, I had no idea what the show was, so I'd heard of it, of course, but I wasn't expecting anything. So seeing this, I was like, oh, okay, so basically there's nothing that is, too far-fetched. And you know what? I basically just had to accept that, and I very much enjoyed it after accepting that.
What'd you think, Joe?
Goes.
When I originally watched this show, I was watching it in an episodic manner, where it was just on Toonami, and it was just this episode, this episode, this episode, this episode. So
literally,
it really didn't even matter to me. It's like watching Dragon Ball Z out of sequence. Wow, that was fucking cool. I wonder what's gonna happen next episode. Totally different episode. Wow, that was fucking cool. I wonder what's gonna happen next episode. Oh, this is just James Bond, isn't it? Yep, I'm sure is. All right.
Yeah, it's set its own little genre in Japan called Kaito, which translates as gentleman thief, I believe.
Yeah. And
we've seen a lot of different iterations over the years and decades of this kind of persona where it's, as long as you're chivalrous, you can still be a thief. Don't kill anyone, don't take hostages, that kind of thing. But in the case of Lupin,
Robin Hood,
he does occasionally take a hostage, to save himself.
Kill people.
Yeah, Robin Hood.
He tries to avoid killing people generally, Lupin, which is why I think, especially with Fujiko Mina, is a very interesting character to add to the mix, because she's a character that holds none of these moral values. Her goal is to get what she can. She's a Bond woman. She loves gold. She loves jewels. She loves diamonds. She basically wants riches. She wants all of that stuff. And she shies absolutely nothing in order to get what she wants. She will kill people for it.
Oh, yeah.
Where Lupin does it, I think this is very well represented as well in The Woman Called Fujiko Mina. Lupin does it for the thrill of things. The more dangerous it is, the more Lupin loves it.
Oh yeah, he clearly gets off on it all.
Yeah.
And it's
Especially
not
Fujiko.
just. Oh yeah, that's why they mold so well together. Oh my God, did you steal that jewel? Oh, I stole the hell out of that jewel.
Oh yeah.
Oh, were you shot in the arm? Oh, put your finger in my arm.
I love their interactions so much. Even as cheesy as it is, especially in part 1, the whole thing where it's like Lupin steals something and then Fujiko chops up and she's like, "Oh, Lupin, I love you. We can share this together." And then she steals it from him and she's like, "Ha ha."
Gotcha, bitch.
Oh yeah, she just runs her finger across his chest and he's like, "Oh, I can't say no to you."
Yeah.
Here, take the thing I just stole.
That is obviously a well-established fact about Lupin. His only weakness is women.
Yep.
Yeah, and not just Fujiko; it's any woman. And you see this across like almost every movie that's come out. There's always another woman involved.
Almost like they're Bond women.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They are Bond women.
It's really cool. And
joke, Tori.
what I do appreciate about part 1 is its maturity in it doesn't go light on the sexual tension. It doesn't go light on the fact that sometimes Lupin, Goemon, and Jigan have to just shoot these guys dead.
Mm-hmm.
Right into the ground, right then and there. Like, this is why the police want him, because if he didn't do these things, then internationally he wouldn't be a criminal. He would just be a thief. Yep. He wouldn't be a murderer, too. That kind of aspect. They do touch on that in part 1, which in the later iterations you don't really see too much of. It's just kind of this family-friendly, oh, I'm going to steal the thing, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, that's a bit annoying in my opinion, because I liked how they handled it in part 1. Like I said, because, I mean, you're essentially sold on the fact that Lupin is, wanted in every country, essentially, around the world. There's nowhere he's not wanted. So,
Well, I think he's revered in 2 countries, and that's Italy and France.
Yes, generally, but they still try to arrest him. The authorities are still trying to capture him. He's generally accepted by the people, but it depends.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but there's actually some pretty good art there in France to steal.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, if you're led to believe this, that he's wanted internationally, it's kind of hard to believe that if he was simply just, an art thief or, a jewelry thief or something along those, or a fucking purse snapper, right? It's like, and it kind of, it's often revealed through things like, Senegata finding it hard to believe when Lupin robs a bank. It's like, no, he doesn't do that. He doesn't rob banks. Right, because that's not his MO. He doesn't go up and hold people at gunpoint and say, "Give me your money," and then leave.
Oh, he doesn't. He doesn't just rob a bank. He would steal the vault.
Yeah, he would take the vault.
But there is an episode where he does. There's an episode where he does rob a bank in the standard bank robbing method, and Senegata, he's having a hard time accepting. Because that's not Lupin. He doesn't do that.
Yeah, he intricately digs a tunnel underground through an aqueduct. And then has a conveyor belt system just taking all the gold out of... Well, I think it was Fort Knox he was stealing.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was Fort Knox, I think, was the crazy, batshit insane kind of heist.
Yep.
Just going over some of my notes here with some other episodes. One of note is the introduction of Goemon. So one aspect is Lupin is a descendant of a family of thieves. Very famous. And then you have the introduction of the samurai warrior Goemon, whose mission is to essentially kill Lupin. So their first meeting in an episode is Goemon wants to murder him.
Goemon is a descendant of Goemon the 8th or something? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's Goemon himself is the 13th.
Yeah, okay, Goemon the 13th. Yeah. He is obviously a descendant of Japanese folklore's very own gentleman thief, Ishikawa Goemon.
No. Yeah, he's obviously a descendant of Oda Nobunaga, the most prevalent anime character ever.
Fuck off. He's a descendant of Ishikawa Goemon, the gentleman thief who was caught and was it boiled? Was it glued? I don't remember. Something.
He was a thief. He was a thief samurai, I believe.
Yeah.
And he got caught due to, I think it was a misunderstanding, betrayal, as he took it.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I mean, that's vague, for interpretation, because I mean, if you want to be very technical about it, there's actually no evidence that suggests that there's ever been an Ishikawa Goemon.
Right.
But it's still a very prevalent Japanese folktale.
There's also quite a few episodes. Yeah, it's a very good episode to see that not everyone Lupin comes in contact with is immediately his friend.
Yeah.
I like that introduction of Goemon, and it makes more... if you just go into the series blindly and you're like, why the fuck is this weird samurai with a sword with this kind of group? Well, that's what Lupin the Third Part 1's for, is this specific episode. Is it really necessary? No.
Is it nice? Yes.
Is it nice? Absolutely. It's one of my favorites, for sure.
Especially when, Fujiko Mine gets involved and she's in between there. She's flirting with Goemon and...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. That was one of the things I found a little bit annoying. later on, because, in later iterations of Lupin, Goemon generally doesn't like women, and he doesn't like Fujiko at all, right? But that's always a bit weird, because, you have part 1 where he was very much infatuated with Fujiko, and I can understand, you can make the case that, well, he feels betrayed by her because she was obviously playing him.
Right.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, come on, at least a little bit of acknowledgement that this happened. I know it's episodic, but I mean, come on.
It's not Bubblegum Crisis episodic.
No, it's not.
So there was there seemingly is a formula here where you meet another Bond girl. There's an item to steal. There's a lot of mob bosses involved, and then there's this other aspect where they're sent to steal this item, and Fujiko is always there.
Yep.
So, for example, I believe there's this certain, like, one-of-a-kind artwork episode where this guy, the original artist is dying on his deathbed, and his entire room spans his original artwork. He's trying to collect it all and be buried with it.
Yep.
And Fujiko is on his bedside, just, Lupin, help! I feel for the man. And you're like, oh my god, yes, she feels for him. So Lupin and the gang has to come up with this incredible, intricate plan to steal this one specific one, because it's the last one in the collection. And it involves disguising as stewardess and flight attendants on an airplane, and Zenigata's there, and it's this whole theatrical mess. And of course, it all leads up to a Fujiko betrayal in the end.
It always does.
And it always does.
It always comes back to that. And that is one of the things that I find, especially that the show did very well. Because it does this consistently, basically almost every single episode. Yet there are episodes where you still just don't see it coming. And then
you're waiting for the moment that maybe she will have a change of heart for once.
Yeah,
and what
she
keeps
doesn't.
What keeps it fresh is karma always seems to bite her back hard. So, like,
karma always bites them. If you want to be very technical about it, the amount of times where both Lupin and Fujiko fails to steal whatever they're trying to steal in an episode is very high.
Like, let's just say they steal a briefcase full of money, and Fujiko, harps it from Lupin, and then she's running, she's got her arm out the window of a car, and she's like, "Bye, Lupin, haha, sucker!" Of course, the clasp on the briefcase would then come undone, and the money would just fly everywhere and go over a cliff.
And not even just that, it's like you have the stereotypical, like, Fujiko, she grabs the fucking suitcase of money, and then fucking darts off and gets in a chopper and tries to fly away, and then Lupin shoots down the chopper, and she loses the money. It's like, they do all sorts of things like that. And it's very fun to watch, even though, it does become, obviously, something you expect because it happens again and again and again. Right. But it's like, it's still fun to see them bicker like this, and ultimately have to, just be content with the fact that so was next time, and then, they're kind of a team, and then they're really not. And,
it's like a game of how asinine can this get.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting, because I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I'm gonna talk a little bit about, the woman called Fujiko Mine, because that's obviously a spin-off, not actually a canon, but it's a spin-off that basically deals with Fujiko Mine as a character, and how she is.
And Mario Kato, the hack writer.
You have her all... Yeah, you have a... shut up. You have a... Jesus Christ, you threw me. You basically have an episodic show again, from 2012 this time, with a bit of its story, which is backstory of Fujiko. But apart from that, what I really like is their exploration of what makes Fujiko, because apart from the whole story of it, you have what essentially comes to why I think it's generally accepted as well, is because it essentially comes to the realization of, why is Fujiko Fujiko? Why does she do what she does? And then you have this entire story to her, which is essentially, technically, at the end of the series of the woman called Fujiko Mine, rendered moot, as it doesn't matter, because Fujiko essentially comes to the conclusion that I do the things I do because I like it. My life revolves around stealing, action, and casual sex. That is Fujiko. To the point where, like, when you say, oh, well, why? She clearly cares for Lupin. Why will she betray him? Because she doesn't care for him enough. She is not a character that gets emotionally invested in anyone. It is why, even in a woman called Fujiko Mina, she will, and yes, this happens, this even happens in the manga, she will even, as you will have known if you seen Lupin, you'll notice that Fujiko also actually at times works as an informant for Senigata to catch Lupin.
Absolutely.
She will actually, in the woman called Fujiko Mina, she will even sleep with him.
With Zenigata?
Do things like that. With Senigata, yeah.
Well, she does, in not just part 1, but a lot of the concurrent movies, they do make it very clear that whoever she's working for, she does the dirty deed with him.
Yeah.
Even though it's not shown on screen.
She even tried it. She even tried to get on the good terms with Goemon. Well, Goemon too, but with Jigen. She tried it with him as well.
And Jigen is the character in the Lupin gang that never trusts her. He always has a backup plan to try to foil her. He's just not as smart. He is the sharpshooter. That is his job. He likes his whiskey, and he likes kicking back with his hat slightly over his eyes.
I like that guy.
Yeah, and that's what he was when he was defeated by Fujiko as well, because he knows that Fujiko is trying to lure him. Essentially, though, he loses to her ancient Chinese sex techniques. Because the fact of the matter is, Fujiko is designed as this character who can get anyone, no matter what. You don't have to trust her. You will probably never trust her. You shouldn't trust her. Yet at the same time, she is so goddamn sexy, and she knows it.
Oh yeah. So one interesting thing I wanna bring up about Lupin Part 1 here is from about episode 7 to I want to say 17. On the production staff is Miyazaki and Takahata.
Yes.
Very famous Ghibli guys. And they do go back in later parts, part 2, where they're solely accredited to certain episodes. Now, they were just loosely accredited or unaccredited. I don't know what the proper term is in industry-wise. But they did work on these episodes, and they are noticeable. The higher quality, the better writing, the better story that's self-contained.
Can I just want to mention as well, obviously Miyazaki, he was brought on as a trainee for a director's role on Lupin the Third Part 1.
He was pretty okie doke at it.
Actually, who's the guy who actually directed it? He is let's see, the actual director. That is
Masaki Osumi.
Yeah, that's the guy. He is essentially what happened is, and you can kind of feel this in Lupin the Third Part 1 as well. It takes a turn, almost.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where Miyazaki took over for not exactly for good, but almost for good. And what happened was that the first director, he had a dispute with the studio and with the production committee on how this should be adapted, because obviously he wanted to keep faithful to the manga and how as faithful as possible to the manga, and how its depictions of everything and how rough it could get. The production committee wanted this to take on more of a family-friendly turn, which is why Lupin has changed over the years. He didn't agree with this, so essentially he left the production, and that's when Miyazaki took over.
Right. So that middle part of the series had Miyazaki and Takahata kind of involved, and then by episode 18, that was the first one where Miyazaki and Takahata kind of had sole control over the director's role, or at least the production role of the series. And that was the episode where I was no, I didn't mention this. It's where Lupin has to find these stolen paintings that are being sold at a beauty contest.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that one too well.
I do remember that one.
Okay. And you could definitely see a big change in the maturity level of the series, at least with how much Fujiko is being like sexualized. That's thank you.
You're
Joe.
welcome.
Good guy. Good guy.
Yeah, no, she's still, you know, flirtatious and whatnot, but it's to a whole, like, it's to a much more, I'm not going to say childish level, but, you know, it's
juvenile.
more than, like, you know, light teasing.
I think it's just held back. I think it's just held back. That's all it is. It's
forward to the teaser.
For part 1, it wasn't still as bad, and by bad I mean not as you said, Joe, juvenile as say part 2 and 3 were.
Well, you could always feel like part 1 was actually targeted towards not really adults, but people that are like the young adult section, essentially. Where, you know,
it was definitely for a younger crowd, yeah.
Where the
middle ground.
Where the entire focus was like it's still adult themes, still adult topics, but it's not, you know, so incredible. It's not like a fucking hard novel. Whereas the later parts seem to be more towards that like older teen almost, kind of like that 16, 15, 16, 17, as opposed to that 20, 21, 22 kind of demographic.
Yeah.
It's like because when it comes to your teens, yeah, a couple years is a fucking huge difference. Anyone knows that. But, like someone in their early 20s could probably deal with someone who's outright flirting with them and understand what's going on. Whereas someone else may be like, they're coming on way too hard. That's very strange. So they would reel it back for later parts because more anime fans are younger. So you're trying to hit as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Younger fans means you have to have younger themes.
It almost seems like it was a more friendly version of James Bond movies, because James Bond movies were very mature.
Well,
they still are.
They still are. That's because the movie-going scene seems to be the older generation anyway. So they can maintain that kind of...
So it would make sense to try and get a series like Lupin, which is very much like James Bond, to a slightly younger audience.
Yep.
Yeah, because they wanted a broader appeal generally, and what, especially at the time, and even still for that matter, is a lot of people that watch anime are people that you know, watch. I'm not gonna say necessarily family-friendly shows, but there is a merit to having, you know, try to have your show be as, you know,
broad range as possible.
Well, you want them.
That's why you have a lot of shows with self-insert characters.
Yeah, you want the most possible mass appeal you can get. That's the entire idea. Because you're trying to make as much money as possible off of the biggest base you can, which would be the younger audience.
I mean, it makes sense as much as
I hate it, it's
like
just the case.
As us three don't like it. I mean, I'd rather see a character like Lupin over a self-insert character.
Yeah.
I'd rather see a character.
Like I said, No, like I said, it's basically, it's one of those things where it's like, I understand it from a business perspective. I do not but I don't appreciate it as a fan.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like, you know, I like them to do what they want, not, you know, but I do understand it's like ultimately they do have to make money. So
well, yeah, I've been harping on this for a couple of podcasts. Like I'm kind of falling away from anime currently because of shit like this. Like I'm 24. I'm about to be 25, but for some reason I can't get into these self-insert characters. And because I can't, that really quells my enjoyment of shows that are more juvenile. Because I've seen them. I've seen them all before. I'm at 1,000 anime I watched. Like, it's not interesting to me anymore to see tropes that are just being hammered in. It's not interesting to me to see themes that appeal to the masses because I've seen them. There's nothing fresh. There's nothing new.
Well, that's why when you get a show like Ancient Magus Bride or March Comes in Like a Lion, it just blows everything else out of the water. So going back to the 70s, staying on Lupin, like back then we had Astro Boy.
Astro Boy. Well, they also had Ashita no Joe.
And Tiger Mask.
Ashita no Joe. Star of the Giants.
You know, it was a lot of sport. It was a lot of sports anime and I use the term a lot very loosely, but it was either a sports anime or it was space, something to do with space or and advanced technology, or it was something like Heidi the Alps, where it was clearly aimed at like 4-year-olds.
Yeah. It was either a fairy tale, it was about sports, it was about space, Or it's for children.
When Lupin came out, it was so new. It was so different. Everyone was captivated.
It was so you could only get away with that shit in manga because that shit don't fly on TV.
And yet it did.
For a little bit.
And then what, no more than a year or two later it came out, and part 2 came out with 150 plus episodes. More family friendly. Yeah, there are, it's I would say it's not as good as part 1, but it's still pretty good.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Like, I mean, one of the things is I understand when people complain about it, that it's different, because it is. But ultimately, when I watch Lupin part 2, even though I don't like it as much as I like part 1, it's not bad, but it's like, it's a problem of that you're sitting there, it's like, I don't quite associate Lupin with this. And that is something as well for me, even though I know people absolutely love Castle Cagliostro, which is the movie.
I adore it as well.
First directorial debut. I don't like it as much because, again, I have a problem like associating, because like that's not quite the Lupin that I fell in love with first.
Well,
it's different.
Miyazaki seems to have this fascination, absolute fascination with making everything for the family. And Lupin, in my experience, Lupin isn't really supposed to be. That's like sitting down and watching James Bond with your 6-year-old. Doesn't exactly make sense.
Well, here's one aspect of Lupin that I do appreciate, is the fact that so many different people at this point in time have worked on the series, worked on the character. Yeah. That Miyazaki especially is a great example of how this is how he sees Lupin. He sees him as his own character for himself, so he portrayed him in his vision, right?
Yes.
So, and you see this with other movies. One movie I like to bring up, which is one of my other favorite Lupin movies, is Diamond of Gemini. I believe that's what it's called.
Okay.
It is called Twilight Gemini. Twilight Gemini. Different director entirely. Came out in the 90s, way after the original series. And it has its own version of Lupin.
Yeah.
The core of Lupin is always the same. Gentleman thief, Fujiko's hitting on him, he falls for Fujiko, he finds the other Bond girl, he wants to either save her or, take something from her and use her. This core is what keeps Lupin so interesting and prevalent to this day. We saw it in the most recent Lupin a couple years ago, where he's in Italy and he's gonna marry the girl, etc., etc., etc. This core is still there. So even though, yes, the hard maturity and killing that was in part 1 isn't prevalent anymore, now they've focused on some other things about Lupin that can keep him interesting.
And that is where, like I said, there's basically a lot of iterations of Lupin and a lot of different people's take on Lupin. And that's where I really appreciate a lot of where Lupin is going now, because, obviously, one of my favorite Lupins is The Woman Called Fujiko Mine, which is probably one of the least Lupin things you'll see. Like, it's still Lupin the Third, but ultimately, like I said, its focus is Fujiko Mine. And Sayo Yamamoto is the one who made that show. What she wanted to do was to not focus on Lupin, because Lupin has been focused on the death. But she wanted something that she, and basically people who are in it, consider more true to Lupin and to what Lupin is than what Lupin has been for quite a while. So it's a lot more violent, a lot more sexy and stuff like that, and it's still a TV anime, which is a shock to me. But obviously in this time it's Fujiko that's kind of the main attraction, because she was a character that Sayo Yamamoto felt like she needed a lot more fleshing out and deserved more spotlight. And then you have other things as well, such as there's what is it, like Jigen's gravestone and Ishikawa Goemon's blood splatter, which are two fairly spray of blood actually, which is two fairly recent movies by Redline creator himself, Takeshi Koike, which again follows this more trying to get Lupin back to its roots of, again, it focuses on different characters than Lupin himself, but it's trying to get it back to that, more aimed at adults, more, more sex, more violence.
I mean, to be fair, have you seen Redline?
More drugs.
That guy doesn't give a shit about what people want.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
Oh yeah. No.
Well, probably one of the most interesting things since part 1 is every new director has their own image of who Fujiko Mine is. It's a constantly changing character art.
Yep.
Well, the thing that gets me about Lupin is every new director completely changes who all the characters are. Like, not at a base level, but kind of outwardly. And it's still accepted by the fans unilaterally.
That's what's so cool about it.
I know, I'm agreeing with you.
Like, Lupin is it's not always accepted, because they have done there was some sort of space thing they did, which was just not accepted at all. But, like, it was even canceled.
Oh, it was like the Tower of Babel or something. Yeah, that was...
Yeah, right? So it's like,
that wasn't very good.
Still have people that kind of just, completely miss with their iteration. But generally speaking, the fans of Lupin have kind of just come to terms with the fact that it's gonna change.
Well, it's kind of like Godzilla.
Lupin isn't just a set thing that will forever be. It will always change. It's one of those things was like, even going back early, like, Lupin the Third, even part 1, isn't exactly the manga either. Right? It's like, it's kind of always been this, like, flux. It keeps changing. So...
It's a constantly adapting show to the times.
Yeah.
And to the person.
And that is why, that is one of the reasons I think Lupin has managed, have so much sticking power. It's the reason why it can come back after, like, let's say, I mean, we'll have had movies and stuff like that, of course, and specials and whatnot, but OVAs, but that it will eventually just come back after, like, 10 years, say, with a new season that people go, oh, Lupin, I remember that. And, of course, it also helps that it had, well, helps, if you like it, that it has also had ties in with things such as Detective Conan and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps trying to stay fresh, even though I know there's a lot of, Lupin fans that didn't appreciate the Lupin the Third versus Detective Conan things, but,
I'm a Detective Conan fan. I thought it was goofy. It was okay. So, anyone else got anything to say?
No.
I really liked it. I really like part 1. I really like Lupin in general.
Yeah.
I can watch... Like, Lupin is one of the things, like, I'm annoyed because I started watching part 3 because of the horrible subs available, that I could only find fucking terrible subs, so I couldn't keep watching, and I'm so annoyed because even if it's not the same show that I liked in part 1, and even if I don't like it as much, I still want to watch more Lupin the Third. It's so ingrained for me now. It's like, I'm sitting there, I was like, oh, more Lupin.
Could really go for more Lupin.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a time when I would run 2 miles every morning, and on a treadmill, and I would have a tablet with Lupin the Third episodes just playing.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't need any sound or nothing. I would just have the subtitles and I would just read it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time I did that. That was like a full year I would do that. So
Lupin is incredibly easy to digest. Like,
it's timeless.
I would even
argue
timeless. I would argue that even a lot of episodes you don't even really need subs to understand what's going on, because it's not that tricky to see what's happening. So, but I mean, normally people probably take that as a negative, but I don't even consider it a negative. I consider that one of Lupin's strengths. Like, it delivers itself so well, even visually, that you understand, even without actually understanding what they say. You kind of hear them say something, and then they're obviously talking about a plan, so but you don't understand what they're saying, and then they execute said plan, and it's like, oh, okay, I get it.
So what's everyone's score of part 1? I'll go first.
Okay.
I gave an 8 out of 10 for part 1.
Yeah. I gave part 1 a 7 out of 10.
6.
8.76.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
So that comes out to a 7.
I'm not the biggest fan of Lupin, but I do enjoy it. I wouldn't actively go out and recommend it without knowing people, without knowing what they like. But
I would recommend it to people, like, I say, try. I don't care where you go. I don't say, oh, absolutely start at part 1. Like, I don't care. You start wherever you want.
All you have to do is understand that Lupin's essentially Robin Hood, and then you just learn the characters around him, and you're good. it's...
And if you say I want to jump into episode 35 of part 3, it's like...
Okie doke, whatever.
Go for it.
Doesn't matter.
It's almost like that Shonen Jump writing style where you're supposed to be able to just pick it up and read it at any chapter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Wherever you want to start, go ahead.
Yep.
Well, alrighty. I think that wraps it up for this episode. This was episode 13 already.
Almost 3 hours.
Ooh. The unlucky one. This is going to go down horribly.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait till the files don't send.
All our podcast episodes are going to be stolen by a hot woman.
I'd be down for that.
You'd be down? Okay. Yeah, our next episode is going to be the Satoshi Kon special.
A good one, right.
Aww.
All right, Tori, let's get all of them going. All of the Kon movies.
Ooh, okay, then I need to watch them.
Well, we'll be focusing on his ever-prevalent, not really known 80s work, Elderly Person Zed.
We're also going to talk about some of his other work.
Yeah, because it's
Satoshi Kon.
It's Satoshi Kon. It's December, so one of the most famous anime Christmas movies, Tokyo Godfathers. We'll be talking about that. Paprika, we'll be mentioning that. Perfect Blue, since Halloween just passed. It's
one of the best anime movies ever made.
Circle in the end.
That wasn't a joke.
It's Satoshi Kon's a big deal. So I'm looking forward to the next podcast. It'll be a good one. This has been the Worldwide Weebs from Red Leaf Retrocast. Finishing thoughts, everyone. You guys can go out.
Finishing thoughts. Well, it's been fun. I obviously, like, the main topic of visuals was something I recommended, and for this cast, mostly because I felt like it fit, since we're talking about Lupin. And generally, it's been a lot of fun, actually. Yeah, I like talking about Lupin. I like talking about visuals, even though probably the visual talk got a bit lengthy and a bit all over the place, a bit back and forth.
Who cares? It was interesting. Anyone who's willing to sit in on a 3-hour podcast knows exactly what they're getting into.
Yeah.
Anyway, you want to join the Discord, you can find the pinned tweet on my Twitter, the Mal group, which you get by typing in Worldwide Weebcast on my anime list for the group page. Find it there, follow us, get in the Discord. That's where you're going to get the most reaction out of any of us. We're constantly in voice chat, or at least fairly regularly. You can follow me on Twitter at fullmetal_LAX, JD at bowlingjd. Tori's will be pinned in the show notes because I have no idea what it is.
Tori Extra, pretty much.
Yeah, Trap Rocks, yes.
Something like that.
All right, and
Something along
with that, I guess it's time to bid you all adieu. Peace.